Nick went down.
Yes,
Unbelievable.
that's excellent.
And is now OOP, as they say in dog racing, out of picture in terms of the college football championship. There would be almost no way that these committee people, even if they bring back Condoleezza Rice and she accept the bribe from Jose Suleiman, there would seem to be no way that you could somehow work Alabama back in the equation. Is there with 2 losses? And possibility that they would have 4 losses on the season. Well, you can't say that because they won those games. And your man Jimbo, what's he on? Like a 9-game losing streak? That's unbelievable. Jimbo Fisher.
I don't know how much they've lost in a row. They have not played well the entire year. Like, and Jimbo, like they're talking, his buyouts like $50 million, and they're considering it. Like that's how bad this is.
Imagine that. $50 million they're going to give this cat to fail.
Go.
Wow. Did we all make some bad career choices? We should have just been failing college football coaches.
The time. Wake up with Defo, joined by Lubie. Welcome to the Defo Show.
And a very good and happy Friday morning, everybody. Good to be with you here as we wrap up another week on the Defo Show. And, of course, we just get started here because we're diving into the weekend and celebrating yet another, and I don't know how many times I've said this on the program, but it really is applicable. I love the smell of point spreads in the morning. Wow, a full slate of stuff and degenerate activity to get into, and we'll have many people commenting on various ways to approach trying to improve your bankroll. That's what it's all about. People have hallucinations about being the one in a zillion that are going to win. I mean, that is a nice pot to chase, right? The $2 billion in the Powerball.
Oh, my God.
I have my most recent ticket right here, which is worth all of $4, cost me $20. And on that proposition, I got back 8 on the last 20. So I've invested 40 and gotten back 12, and I'm thrilled. Imagine.
You're down and you're happy.
Because one thing I learned, and it was, again, in play last night in that dreadful Carolina-Atlanta game. 2 things actually apply from our many theories. Number one is it's a lot easier to be the house, is it not, Lubie?
Yep.
If you're in any gambling situation, I don't care if some guy beats you for $1.5 million. Just think back to the scene in the movie Casino where Don Rickles goes out with the big whale from Japan who just took him down for a couple of $1 million. And they feigned that the plane, the private jet that they flew him to Las Vegas in, is having some kind of problems. But you know what? No problem, Mr. Chang, or whatever the guy's name was. Can I get in trouble for that? That's a common name, right? Mr. Chang. I don't know what his name was in the movie. But anyway, and sure, they know the psyche of the degenerate is such that we are so overwhelmingly fueled by self-sabotage that the guy's not going to be able to help himself. No matter how disciplined he says he's going to be, he's not going to get the money back. They give him the most grandiose suite that they could possibly find for him. Stays overnight. He starts out betting small, and then while he's winning, it's not good enough. So what happens? Eventually, the house edge takes hold.
Yep.
You don't have to make any decisions. If you're Phu, P-H-U, and you're dealing blackjack, you don't need to make any decisions. The guy who's sitting there with 13 is the one that has to make a decision.
Yep.
Do I take a card? No. All right. So you stick and boom, here's 5 cards drawn to a 21. Phu knocks you out and she goes right back to Cambodia. The house keeps your money and they're very happy to invite you back again because you're going to do it again and again and again and again. Last night's game, a perfect example. It's good to be the house. Who in their right mind would have taken 2.5 points with the Carolina Panthers last night? The Panthers going back to a quarterback, and this guy, P.J. Walker.
Walker, yeah, he was in XFL.
XFL quarterback, right?
Yes.
He's playing. He's out there in the field screaming, McMahon. XFL quarterback.
Yes.
And he's beaten out for the starting job under the auspices of the interim coach there, Steve Wilkes, who took over from Matt Rule, who got paid $60 million to go away.
Yes.
This is how poorly run a franchise the Carolina Panthers have been. They traded away McCaffrey, who obviously is a brilliant player, and their best chance to have any kind of offensive thrust, especially with a rookie quarterback, might be to run McCaffrey and use him in the versatile fashion that we've seen already employed by San Francisco, who it only took one game to show that McCaffrey was brilliant, and maybe it was the franchise holding him back. as good as he was, as talented as he was, and he definitely showed his ability when he was playing for the Carolina Panthers. But what happens? He gets one game in San Francisco. He's not even in a team meeting. He just comes right off the plane and onto the field there. It was Dwayne Lucas time.
Honestly.
Drops a horse into Louisville and boom, goes on and wins the Derby after landing 2 hours before the race at the airport there in Louisville. And McCaffrey goes in and accomplishes the NFL equivalent of a triple-double, right? A rare, trifecta feat, where he throws for a touchdown, runs for a touchdown, and has a reception for a touchdown. And none of those were gimmies. He throws a bomb on an option play after a lateral. He catches a ball in traffic that was not exactly perfectly thrown. Only guy, that could make that catch, which, if you're watching these games lately in the NFL, you talk about the Manos de Piedro. How bad, how clumsy are the hands of almost all defensive backs in the National Football League?
Yeah.
It's a disgrace. You go to any practice, right? And what are they doing? They have that thing, the machine that throws the ball at like 100 miles an hour, and they put the guy at point blank range. It's reminiscent of remember in the circus, or you would have like some kind of carnival, and the guy with the big pot belly would catch a cannonball on his belly from 2 feet away, right? They would shoot a cannon, a metal ball would hit him in his stomach, and the guy would go, "Is that all you got, champ?" So you go to any practice, and the defensive backs and the linebackers, that they're firing balls right at their face, and they're making a catch in their hands, one after another. They practice this all day long. They get in the game. I've never seen anything like it. Have you? Have you seen more dropped interceptions?
The Steelers game with the Dolphins was pretty horrendous.
This one last night, wow, the Atlanta Falcons must have dropped 5 balls that were right in their hands. And consequently also, Carolina also dropped a couple of surefire. It's almost impossible not to be able to catch these balls if you're a professional athlete. It's much like we say, hey, if you're a pro athlete, there's no excuse for shooting 62% from the free throw line. Whenever you see a shot, I don't know if they're limited. Do they ever actually try to replicate and simulate a game in practice, in NBA practices?
Oh yeah,
They do
score, but they go at it. Oh yeah, for sure.
Every time I see any kind of a clip on the news of like, okay, Miami Heat taking on so and so tonight, and they have a shot of the gym there, the guy's just kind of lobbing one up there.
Yeah, that's not their act. They don't let you shoot practice. Like they're not.
Why not? What? It's basketball. What's going to change?
You're running plays. I don't know. You know that.
Are there any new plays in basketball that you haven't seen before? There are only like 2 or 3 plays in the entire game.
There's other stuff. There's variations of different.
What is it? There's a pick and roll. There's a draw and dish, which is the most common thing now, where nobody actually gets to the basket unless you're playing against the Heat, which again last night in evidence. If you ever want to see the perfect illustration of the Red Sea, you don't need a telestrator. Just watch these guys go to the basket uncontested. With impunity, my friends. They just roll to the basket against the Heat, shoot layups, and then everybody looks around. Kind of like, when the defensive back blows an assignment, and a guy just runs right past him, and then he starts looking around. Supposed to be a safety here in the corner. You're out of your mind. But, and they won in overtime last night. A struggle against the LaMelo Ball-less Charlotte Hornet team that is now 3-10 on the season. So your Heat in a key ball game. I think this was a pivotal game because you don't want to go to 4-8. That's an ugly record. 5-7, maybe a little bit of a stepping stone there, but 117-112 overtime last night. All right, so it's good to be in the house. Getting back to this, there's no way in your right mind that you could have ever. You would have been willing to lay any amount of points. The Atlanta Falcons, prior to like last week, I don't know if it's the last 2 weeks, but they were the leading team. They were undefeated against the point spread for the first 6 weeks of the season.
There you go. Lately,
that's teetered a little bit. They just played Carolina. They beat them. I think it took overtime to win 30-27. That was only a couple of weeks ago. And now this P.J. Walker is in there. Think about this. On the bench, the number 1 overall pick just a few years ago, Baker Mayfield, for whom they traded before the season got underway. They waited until the price dropped and then gave the Cleveland Browns, a little package of draft picks, and they got Baker Mayfield. So you're thinking he's going to be the number 1 quarterback, and he started the season as such. Sam Darnold, who we thought, wow, it was the problem with Darnold wasn't that he wasn't a capable quarterback. It said he was a New York Jet,
Yep.
which would have been a very, very valid theory until all of a sudden this year, although the jury's still very much out.
Yeah,
I mean,
Wilson is good.
we're talking hung jury on Zach Wilson.
He's not good.
They might be
just
hanging
play well.
themselves. Well, we don't know. I mean, now in Zach Wilson, I haven't seen enough of him. I mean, every time I watch him, he's making hideous mistakes and throwing just
Yeah,
absolutely horrendous picks. But is there enough there to be of the opinion that he might make it soon?
Oh no.
I don't know. Doesn't look great, right? What do you think, Lubie?
Put it this way,
You
if
never
you're the
liked him,
Jets-
though. You never liked him, and you
No, I
hate the
didn't.
Jets.
If you're the Jets, you're like, yeah, that second pick should have been Justin Fields. Duh. Like, it would never
right
make
there,
sense
yeah.
at the time. They have this thing, the OSU quarterbacks fail. Justin Fields wasn't like Dwayne Haskins.
No.
It's a stupid when they do the system thing. Yeah, there are some systems that don't produce great NFL quarterback play, but if some guys break the system, whatever. But
Yeah,
Zach
well, I
Wilson,
mean, they passed on Marino. So think about
They did.
that.
they did.
Right.
That's the second one that was a draft that had multiple quarterbacks, and they took the guy that may be the worst of all of them.
Yeah. Well, who was the guy again out of the UC Davis? And he was in the shootout with Marino.
Ken O'Brien.
Ken O'Brien, yeah.
Yeah,
Wow, was that a bad pick, huh?
Yeah, it was better than Blackledge because Ken, if you look at his
Blackledge was awful.
Ken
Tony
O'Brien
Eason.
actually played a decent amount of time and was decent. So he was better than some of those quarterbacks. You just named two of
Yeah.
them. But he wasn't Marino, he wasn't Kelly, he wasn't Elway.
83 quarterback
Elway,
draft.
but still. I think I got the other
Well,
two.
and Marino was the guy that was sitting there when they had a chance to make
Yep,
that
and they
pick.
wanted him. And their fans wanted him. Yep.
Oh, I remember. I mean, that was always the obligatory shot of the Jet fans being horrified after their selection was made at any draft. I mean, the Rockettes may as well have just put their feet, collectively right up the ass of every Jet fan once they made their selection. And that was a rough one because nobody had heard of Ken O'Brien, right? UC Davis, not exactly a college football program that's in the spotlight. And this wasn't one of those things where you thought, wow, here's a schmink team, but what a quarterback they have. And sometimes that can be a little bit of an illusion because you got a guy. I mean, didn't you think that David Klingler was a cinch to be a great pro quarterback? Didn't matter. He was playing at Houston at the time. He was going for like 8 touchdowns a game. Looked unstoppable. 500 yards a ball game. And then he gets to the pros, and it's Alabama Ruski, my friends. All right, so it's good to be in the house. So last night, there's no way, and in my personal bookmaking ventures with my friend Francesco, he, of course, hands me Carolina. And I'm looking at going, all right, the guy deserves a gimme, doesn't he? Falcons have been covering spreads all season long until very recently. They were the darlings of all degenerates. This P.J. Walker had thrown for 9 yards and a half before being benched for Baker Mayfield in his previous ball game. He threw for a total of 9 yards, Lubie. I think on something like 3 for 10 passing or something along those lines. And it looked awful. Steve Wilkes, interim coach, was 1-3 since taking over for Matt Rule. And after a brilliant win where they just kind of rallied and had a surprising victory in his first game, he was either 1-2 or 1-3. But they had been decimated in the prior 2 ball games. And even though they're at home in the fringe of a tropical storm, and they do want to run the ball, you're thinking they're not going to be able to do it. And if I'm the Atlanta Falcons, no matter how horrendous my defense may be, I'm going to do everything I can to pressure this P.J. Walker guy and force him to win the game against me.
Yes.
Where is the Belichick mentality, which makes perfect sense? How far-fetched is this strategy? Let's take away your best asset.
Yep.
Let's take away the one aspect of the game that you excel at and see if you can't get it together. In other words, as a basketball player, Lubie, I've told you many times, I was all left, which was an advantage because as a right-hander, most people are expecting you to go to the right all the time. I felt very uncomfortable going to my right as compared to my left. But if you forced me to go the other way, I would have to manufacture something, but it was not going to be as good. I just take your team out of their comfort zone or any individual that you're playing.
Yes.
If they beat you that way, so be it. What are you going to do? At least you had a shot, especially in a situation where you appear to be slightly overmatched. The Falcons were fighting for the division lead there. They were in there at 4-5 in a weak division. Carolina is already in tank mode. as evidenced by the fact that they traded McCaffrey. The Anderson thing, he was at odds with the coaching staff, so I don't know that they're making a big deal about how they dumped him, but they were going to dump him anyway.
Yeah, that was hard.
What was it, Robbie Anderson? And
Yeah.
he was in an argument with Wilkes, and Wilkes sent him to the locker room. So I don't know if you can count that as part of an overall dumpage philosophy, so that you can get rid of all your good players and then finish with as few wins as possible to get a higher draft pick. Still, just a scathing indictment against the logic that's involved in the National Football League. How do they sit there? They come up with all these decisions. They go to the owners' meetings, general managers' meetings, and nobody says, hey, it's time to change the system.
Yeah.
So you're sitting there in an impossible situation, getting only 2.5 points, not even a field goal. And sure enough, what happens, man? They go out there and they put the first 10 on the board. I went away from the game after that. I'm thinking, wow, I don't know that that's enough. Actually, they put the first 13 on the board, I think, and we're up 13-0. Then it became 13-3 at halftime, and Carolina eventually won the game 25-15. Giving a zillion opportunities for Atlanta to win the ball game, but not enough for the Atlanta Falcons to take advantage of, or they weren't able to. And not only do you cover the spread, but you get an outright money line win with a team that made no sense whatsoever to place even 5 cents on in this game. Looking at my handicappers here in the New York Post, they feature 9 of them on the Friday edition here, where they do that little grid and they have the picks. And actually, there are a couple of guys doing pretty well in the NFL. They have one guy, Loftus, is 77-54 in the season, 23 games over 500. That's pretty good. Steve Serby, a longtime NFL veteran writer, picking at 76-55. And another guy, they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys significantly over 500 among the 9 that participate in this particular thing. On the other end of that scale, though, they also have 1, 2, 3 guys that are significantly under 500, or 2, and then several others. But it's not an easy proposition to pick winners in the NFL with the point spread. 8 of 9 had the Falcons last night.
Oh, jeez.
8 of 9. So they all went down.
I mean, look, Panthers are a disaster. PJ Walker is their 4th string. Like, Sam Darnold's sitting fine and he's not playing.
How do you feel if you're like Sam Darnold or Mayfield? Are you happy you're just cashing a paycheck?
No. Those guys, because those guys, this isn't like a Sage Rosenfeld's where he's gonna hang on for 10, 12 years as a backup. I guess both of those guys are good enough to at least be backup, but both of those guys are supposed to be franchise quarterbacks.
Yeah,
which means $200-300 million deals. Like, backup quarterback is a great job for a guy like us. Like, I'm making what I'm making. I'd love to make millions.
Imagine getting striped a check for $4 million. You don't even get into the game.
But when you were drafted in the first round and you were supposed to be, and both were drafted top 10, top 5, you're supposed to be making hundreds of millions. These guys got one nice payday. Neither got their second payday and never will. I mean, neither looks like a starting quarterback now.
How could they look like a starting quarterback when they're being beaten out for the starting job with an interim coach who's obviously got his future on the line here? I don't know. Is he under like Brian Flores, like shackles? And the ownership has said, hey, listen, we want to lose every game. So you play this guy that has, zero experience. I mean, that's the other thing. Both Darnold and Mayfield have made enough starts that you would think they'd be far better off and far better served by playing one of those two guys. If you're saying we want to play the player, let me use the cliche, that gives us the best chance to win. How does P.J. Walker give you the best chance to win in that equation?
It doesn't. They did.
9 yards passing in the first half of an NFL game in the most liberal era of passing rules and offensive possibilities that you could that you could find. And 9 yards, they yank him. Mayfield out there actually acquitted himself pretty well in the second half of that game.
Yep.
They were hopelessly down, so naturally you're going to get some passing yards and some gimmies on the short intermediate passes. But and I didn't see that ball game, and I would never. I mean, the Thursday night package with Amazon, forget it.
Oof.
If Bezos doesn't escalate prices on deliveries, I'm going to refuse and decline any delivery the Mustang has, which is a daily occurrence here at the DeForest household.
Yeah.
There is something banging against our door almost daily, on a daily basis. I don't even look anymore. I just kind of like try to identify the object there by feeling the package a little bit. and you're like, what could this be? But all those delivery costs are going to skyrocket. Literally, because of this atrocity that's been put together by the NFL for the Thursday night NFL package. Poor Al Michaels, man. I think he's going to pass away on the air.
Oh, jeez.
From disinterest in calling these games. And Herb Street seems to know his stuff. I mean,
I don't think he's bad. People bitch about him, but I think he's done fine. I mean,
yeah, I think he's very tolerable.
He's not annoying like a lot of guys. He's not any worse than Troy Aikman, who's been doing it for, I guess, 20 years or something stupid.
I think he's far better than Aikman in his first year of doing NFL games. I really do, because at least I'll give him this. It's not my favorite type of color analysis, where it's a lot of technical stuff, but at least he spots stuff. And I'll give the production team there on the Amazon games, a lot of credit, because you'll see Herb Street will go to something and they immediately have an illustration of it, no matter what he's talking about. Which I don't know that he says, "Hey, dig this up," but they'll find a guy that was wide open on a pattern very, very quickly after the play has taken place. You don't have to spot it yourself, where you go, "Hey, wait a minute. I know he's talking about this, but isn't there a guy like wide open in the middle of the end zone going, here? Here." Did they miss that? That was the old Steve Spurrier offense. Remember the fun and gun? But
I remember.
But atrocities. I mean, these games are so boring. Now, the conditions might have hampered any ability to excel on offense last night, except for running the ball. But wow, that was unreal. All right, we did see some of the shots. Speaking of that, the aftermath of Nicole, Daytona Beach. Wow, where were those houses before in terms of proximity to the ocean?
I don't know, because so in talking to different people, the storm that we made fun of, and you are out east, so you were near what should have or shouldn't have been damaged. So the great Alex Dufresne, the pier that you were making fun of falling, he lives right by it, and he said, and he sort of agreed with you, the weather wasn't bad. That pier was put up in 2017, so it's actually newer, but it's a private pier, so that guy put it up. So who knows what went into it?
Spiro something is the guy's name.
But the professor was around or saw the Deerfield area, which is not far.
Yeah.
And especially when it comes to massive
storms.
storm.
Pier got rocked, though.
And he said that place was getting hit hard.
Yeah.
And then one of our friends lives more south off of Oakland, and they took video of the Las Olas on the beach, A1A, where Elbow Room is, and there was water all the way up to the elbow.
No, that always floods that area.
So certain areas did get hit hard, and certain areas within miles away had nothing. This was the bands were really freaking weird with this thing.
But it wasn't enough. I mean, where I was, which is in the immediate area where this pier, a whole section is now missing. Unless there was some serious previous erosion, there was no way that there was enough intensity to this storm to cause a structurally sound pier to collapse like that in that fashion.
You were not the only one.
It's one thing that boards come up or whatever, or the water comes over the top, but to have the foundation of the pier completely collapse in an intermediate section of the pier, right in the middle of it. There's no way that if that wasn't on the threshold of collapse to begin with, that storm damage and the way that the storm hit, I can't imagine it. I know Mayo has a degree in structural engineering. He was arguing with me yesterday, but I was out in those conditions. I never saw anything that would indicate that you would go outside and go, holy shit, look at that.
I agree, but maybe the push from some of the other areas were underneath and you couldn't. I don't know. The undertow, I don't know. There was damage.
Nothing that I saw. I mean, when witnessed, and I was there. I was outside, for God's sake.
It might have been shittily
could have caused that.
This guy did it himself. This wasn't like government. It was his property, and he did it himself.
That thing was built like in the 40s, though. It was redone a couple of times.
Yeah, 2017, he did his own.
1940s is when it went up, like 1946. I don't know, but it was, unfortunate. Yeah, I mean, anytime you see the aftermath and the damage that's caused by one of these storms, even as a Category 1, the stuff in Daytona Beach. Now, there were buildings collapsing there because the sand had eroded. along the beaches there. And how close were these homes and these structures to the ocean itself? Was there
Well,
like
I mean,
1 foot of room between the house and the ocean?
we've had a lot of erosion. That's the other thing is people don't
Yeah.
realize just how much erosion's happened. They probably weren't when they were built. It was probably way out there.
Yeah,
But
pretty soon, like homes where you are out west are going to be on the
honestly,
beach. That was a good piece of foresight on your part.
get the
Buy a
hell
home 30 miles from the beach here.
eventually.
Pretty soon, you'll be waterfront property. It's great. Surrounded by water. You'll have the Everglades seeping in on the other side. All right, we have many things to get to here on a Degenerate Friday, a lot of plays to get to, and we're going to do all of that as Mark Lawrence will not be able to join us today physically and or verbally, but he does have his plays. He relayed to Mike Lubie Lubitz, so we'll have the Mark Lawrence Playbook Sports.com selections. Always a lot of fun. The Greek is coming up here in just a second. The professor's scheduled to join us,
I
although
just
again,
spoke with him. He's awake. He will be on with us.
oh, good. Okay.
Good to go.
A late scratch, but for very forgivable and understandable circumstances last week in wild celebration. Now, also, if you want to speak about celebrations, and he illustrated this very well, Brandon Lang on our Believe podcast yesterday, which is still up there on BLEAV Network. Definitely worth a listen. If you're a fan of this show, you'll love Brandon Lang's selections. He was red hot. He was 6-1-1 according to Lubie's calculations last week on the show. So 6 out of 7 winners. That's always excellent. And on top of that, wildly entertaining.
Yes.
And he had a story about cashing a ticket on the Louisville game when they lost to, what was it? The Bartholomew Academy or whatever that was?
Bellarmine.
Classic story. So you'll want to catch that.
Yeah.
And we kind of fuse that together as part of our Degenerate Friday platform. So you want to catch that. Brandon Lang, always outstanding anyway, always entertaining. And you'll catch that on the Believe podcast. And it's called After Hours with Defo and Lubie. And that would be us. And, of course, it's After Hours because we do it after this show. So check that out, and you'll get some more insight into the weekend's activity. And then the Gambling Gourmet, Mike Mayo, going to join us. He was out gambling last night. I think he was in one of those poker deals at the Hard Rock. And he was making price comparisons before the Hard Rock to any other place, which I can tell you.
Yeah, it's not.
I mean, start multiplying exponentially. One of those giant pretzels, I don't care how delicious it is, right?
How much is it? How much
can't
is it?
Be worth $15.
Shut up. They're like 3, maybe 4, 15.
Used to be 3 for a quarter. Back
Here
in the
used
day.
to be, I get it, but I'm saying like in my times, it's $3-4. It's a pretzel, 15.
$5 even
Are
at
you
the track
kidding
or
me?
something is like, all right, it's $5, but
Place is like going to the Fontainebleau. That place is like being at Live.
15 for a pretzel. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. That's ridiculous.
You could, import that immediately from Bavaria or whatever, and it still wouldn't be worth it. There's no
That's
way.
crazy. Like literally, highly, you can get a full meal for like 6.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I don't understand. Like I get it. They're different in a sense, sure, but the same. Like they have entertainment, they have gambling.
They have everything that you could possibly want to highlight.
Like 3 times the amount.
$15, right? You used to be able to get a steak, man, at Outback for 15, not that long ago.
What do you mean? You can go to Landlubber, not a Landlubber.
Texas Roadhouse, yeah.
Roadhouse, you can get a steak dinner for 15. Like, come on.
A pretzel. Now, if you want anything else, do you just order the pretzel? Maybe you share it with your date? How good do you look there? Not so good, huh? All right, we're coming back with more. And then it costs you another $300.
Yeah, exactly.
On top of that, in the slot machines, where wow, you don't even see like an occasional cherry, man. You would a couple of cherries pop up there, so you get $4 back for the 5 that you spent on that spin, and you're like, yeah, all right, man, look at that.
It's like you lost in your habit.
Attendant.
Oh my god!
All right, back with more in a moment. We're going to try and get you some winners. The Greek coming up here on the Defo Show. Jeff DeForest, Mike Lubie Lubitz, rolling out a Degenerate Friday in just a moment. Now that.
The time.
Nobody in their right mind could have bet the Panthers except the house last night. It's 7:29.
Folks, Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously. Friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. All those ingredients, no pun meant there, are hard to find unless you're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. You see, they encompass all of those attributes. Really, really good food, amazing atmosphere, good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs, unmatched. Steaks hand cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. It's the one day, folks, that you can forget about low-carb diets. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-453-9066.
You can't fake caring. Women can sense this immediately. You don't really care. You didn't really want to do any of this.
We now return to the Defo Show.
Welcome back to the show, a Degenerate Friday here on the Defo Show in South Florida Live. Jeff DeForest along with one Mike Lubie Lubitz, and it's always great to kick off our Degenerate portion of the program with, I think, a guy would be, if they made stamps to, commemorate and honor degeneracy, this guy would be ahead of virtually anybody. And just a great man about town, the Greek, joins us here on the program. Greek, how are you, my friend?
I'm good, Dave. How are you, baby? What's going on?
Good morning, great one.
Everything's good. Everything's really good. Yes.
He was saying hello. He was bidding
good.
his salutations to both of us.
Oh, okay. All right. Very good. Well, I mean, and the other thing is, you would have figured, Greek, in the impossible scenario where, I mean, I live in Lauderdale by the Sea here, a mile from this pier, which, the middle section completely collapsed. And everybody's saying it was totally attributable to Hurricane Nicole. I'm saying this thing had to be on the pretty flimsy ground from a foundational standpoint to begin with, because there wasn't enough activity there. But the amazing thing is that I wasn't standing there fishing at the time. So I feel lucky, because if anybody could have gone down in that spot, it would have been me.
Thank God.
Oh, my God. Thank God you didn't go down. Are you kidding me? Oh, man. What a funeral that would be. Jesus.
That would have been the end, too.
You show up 6 months later at the Kentucky Derby.
Exactly.
What's up? What's happening? You guys looking for me?
Exactly. Oh,
Yeah, that would have been ugly to say.
I was out there tonight, and a long-time listener of yours bumped into me, and he said, he just had a lot of praise for you and Lubie. And I said, yeah. I go, I worked with him for years. I said, I'm the Greek. He goes, you're not the Greek. I go, yeah, I am. I go, that's me. He goes, really? It was so funny.
He said, really?
But you got a lot of listeners out there still very loyal to you and miss you guys.
No, it's very, very good. I know. It's amazing because this is a lot easier. You would think. I mean, obviously, you jump in a car, you punch on a dial on a radio, but it's as easy as pie to find us now, and yet people are always shocked, and they think, "Well, you're still doing it? Okay." And it's kind of like I changed radio stations a zillion times, and you would think that they had written an obituary for you, and that the previous radio station had put this out there that you were dead, because you could be very easy to find on the dial, and still people, they're so stuck in their listening habits that because you're not on the station you were on before, they like figure that you're no longer in the business. But no, that's good to hear, Greek. And you have a lot of fans. People are always curious and asking about you, and they want to know if you're really as wild as it seems like we're depicting you as here on the show. And I'm telling them, listen, this is the toned down version.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah, I mean, this is the network television version of the Greek. If we really started to elaborate on what's going on in your life and what's happened, I don't know that we're able to air this stuff without having several attorneys on retainer. So, have you been up to anything specifically? I mean, are you just cruising? What's going on here? What with the Greek? Are you starting to expand your horizons again?
Betting under-overs on the win, with Nicole, the Hurricane. But besides that, it was a quiet. How about last night? In the NFL? 85% of people have Atlanta, and Carolina not only covers but wins.
Yep.
It's such a crazy season.
Yep.
Yes.
Unbelievable.
Yep.
Well, we were talking about that to start the show. What was that, Greek? I missed you.
It's just crazy the way. I said it's just crazy that like that team, nobody even really knows who's on the team. Backup quarterback, and they beat them. And it just shows you how the season's been going, especially in the NFL with a lot of shocking upsets.
Well, and that's how I started the show. I mean, it's good to be the house because you don't have to think. There is no element of logic that would make you think that Carolina getting 2.5 at home was a favorable proposition for your money to be riding on. Atlanta had been the darling against the spread for the first 6 games of the season when they went 6-0 against the spread. They have all the incentive in the world there. They just beaten Carolina, and Carolina comes back and throws this kid out there over Mayfield and Darnold, who had thrown for 9 yards in the first half of an NFL game. With today's rules in play, it wasn't like they went back to the 1940s and instituted the rules, and was benched from Mayfield, who went back to the bench. And you're thinking they're doing everything in their power to sabotage their season, and they went out right. Yep. Nobody could have come up with that, except if somebody said, "Hey, I want to bet $1,000 on the Atlanta Falcons."
Exactly.
And you're fortunate enough to say, "Okay, I have to accept that no matter what." Much better to be the guy that doesn't think, right?
Oh, of course. There's no doubt about it. Unfortunately, you know what? Most people find that out later in life.
Yeah, like when you're deceased. By the way, you would have hit the under on my life expectancy if I'd been on that pier, Greek. But, that's kind of like winning on a missed field goal because the death was accidental.
You're too valuable. I'd rather have you around.
Exactly.
All right, very good. I'm glad you're rooting for me.
Another 50 years.
I don't know about that. I wouldn't roll the dice with that one. Even if you knew they were loaded and you had magnets under the table. All right, Greek. I mean, you've been pressing along all season and doing some good stuff. So let's go ahead and fire away and package up your picks for this week.
Well, Alabama playing Mississippi State, laying 16. I think they win, but that's a lot of wood for them to lay. People have said that, this week, I don't agree that Saban's lost touch, all that, but no, I still think Alabama's a very good team. I just think their defense, especially the secondary, isn't one foot.
Yep.
I'll take Mississippi State in the 16 points.
I think it's Mississippi they're playing, right?
Ole Miss, yeah.
Ole Miss. Yeah.
Ole Miss.
Ole Miss. Yeah, Ole Miss.
Okay.
Seattle getting points from Tampa in Germany.
Yes.
I don't think Tom's happy because Gazelle bought a piece of property right next to his in Miami.
Right.
Yeah. So
how do you feel about that? I mean, if the X
bought
bought the place across from you, Greek, how would you feel about that?
I would have no problem with it, but that's me.
Oh, good for you.
All right.
You know what I mean? That's just, my divorce didn't end bad. I mean, it didn't work out, but we have dinner all the time, and, it is what it is. I'm going there for Thanksgiving.
Well, you know how we feel about that. We find that a little bit strange, Greek. We do.
You're supposed to be miserable.
Yeah. In all honesty, I love you like a brother, but, it's a little weird, my friend.
But I'm strange. We know that.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
The therapist, and he said, we'll have to be normal for you. Nothing you had was normal your whole life. So,
I don't believe you have to hate your ex, but I don't know that you need to, go out of your way to, perpetuate the relationship.
You think you should hate
your ex. And I don't want her living across the street from me, either one of them,
I know, you're bad
in terms of wives. I mean,
my wife would not be happy.
Are you kidding me? Your divorces? You're like Iran and Iraq. Of course you don't want that.
I paid $6,000 for a bowling ball just to prove a point. Think about that. After already giving a woman several, several six-figure checks. Unbelievable.
You're walking out and she's throwing Florida Gator hats out the window. I hate you. I can't believe what you did to me. The whole thing. And you look at her and goes, she's really mad.
She's really mad.
She was wearing a "She Hate Me" shirt in court when we got divorced. She originated that.
Oh my God.
She had a souvenir stand outside of the XFL games. "She Hate Me," and that was a big seller. All right, so you have Geno Smith beating the Buccaneers.
Yes.
They're getting points in that game in Germany. That's actually going to be visible because it's on NFL Network, not on ESPN Plus or whatever that was last week. That was a terrible arrangement. Because do you look forward, Greek, to getting up early and watching that 9:30 game?
I mean, I'm up early anyway. I mean, if I had action on it, yeah. I mean, I used to go to a lot of places when they started years ago, and they would have breakfast, you know, like eggs and kegs and different things for the game, which was cool. A lot of bars and restaurants. But I think it's a disadvantage to the teams for the next couple of weeks with the time difference. But they go with it.
Yeah.
Because they want to make money.
In the name of the almighty dollar.
I'll bet Dallas. Yeah, Dallas over Green Bay. Packers have too many problems, and they don't have any receivers. And Dallas has a very good defense. I think they'll put a lot of pressure on Russell, on Rodgers. I mean, they couldn't score on Detroit. They're not going to score on Dallas.
You would think not. And the Cowboys laying 4.5 on the road against the Packers seem to be, well, a mixed bag of opinions about that game. So you have Seattle. They're getting points in Munich, a neutral site, if you will. Against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who have not looked good, even in winning. I mean, a miraculous comeback. Only the Rams could have spit the bit like that. And so, you know, all of a sudden, everybody's feeling good about Brady. But in general, he was having a terrible game. Not he personally, but the team was having an awful game offensively. Dallas over. What was that, Green? I missed you there.
They have so many injuries.
Yeah. Oh, no, they're
They're
like
so that's
a
the hard
freaking.
thing.
No doubt. And Rodgers looks like he's trying to sabotage the Green Bay Packers. Either that or the after effects of the hallucinogenics that he was taking during the offseason, which why hasn't Roger Goodell weighed in on that?
Exactly.
I mean, holy Doc Ellis, what is this kid doing?
Yeah, he's. I think he's more interested on John Wick 4.
I don't want Timothy Leary playing quarterback and calling plays for my team. I don't care how great he was in the past. And
wow, that's an old
and you're with us on our boy Lane Kiffin, the ultimate coaching playboy, as Ole Miss hopefully wins outright against Alabama, getting 11 and a hook on the last check, and the Crimson Tide going down to the point spread, which again will have Nick Saban squirming as he has to, you know, make himself accountable to the alumni. All of those hillbillies that were sending it in on the Crimson Tide. All right, Greek, you have a great weekend. Any more dating action there? Lubie, with that sighting, I'm still intrigued by that.
She was great.
As he said, you were with some 25-year-old babe out there at Louis Bossy's.
I just said she was great looking and seemed like a nice woman. That's all I said. I didn't get specific like you made it seem.
Well, I mean, I know you don't drink, but I mean, did you deliberately order 2 martinis and balance them on her breasts?
Oh, Jesus.
They weren't even sitting on a table, according to Lubie, and yet not a drop was being spilled.
Oh, God.
She's very well endowed, that I would say.
I didn't say any of that. People guess.
Holy Adrian Barbeau, my friends.
Oh,
you know, I mean, Lubie thought it was a scene out of Swamp Thing.
He was running by so fast, it was unbelievable. I thought he was in a marathon. And he was just like running by the New York City Marathon. I was handing him a pen and pasta instead of ours.
That's how he is, you know that.
I said, Booty?
You could have been handing out gold Rolexes, and he would have just blown right by you. Going, I gotta get to my car. Stop bothering me, Greek.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Well, Greek, I talked to the party. I'm busy.
That's exactly
and he looked at me and goes, nice rack. And he just kept going.
And he wasn't talking about the ribs there at Louis Bossy's. All right, Greek, we love you, man. Good stuff. Good luck with your picks. I'm glad.
We love you.
All right. Very good. The Greek, ladies and gentlemen. All right. I don't know. I mean, look, from a rooting standpoint, I'm looking naturally. We want to see Alabama get their ass walloped in that game against Ole Miss. Are they going to come out and win by 35 points there, Lubie? What do you think?
Yeah, he's not a fan of Kiffin. They've had their stuff, and everyone's starting to write off Saban. That would be the exact time where they win by like 4.
Well, his pick was Mississippi.
No, I'm talking about. I know. I'm talking about the actual game in real life.
Okay.
That Saban has been written off like all week long. People are trying to write the epitaph, and I haven't gone that far. I just think it's nice to see them lose 2, possibly 3 in a year. I
believe the game has passed Saban by.
I'm sure you joined that group. I did not join that group, but from Saban after that, you know, he loves to find something that he can create a chip. He doesn't have to create anything. So I think Ole Miss will cover, but Saban does hate Kiffin. they do have a weird thing. Kiffin doesn't mind going after Saban, so
Yeah.
this would be the place where Saban would go all in and kick their ass. Yes, that's what it feels
Not that we're rooting for this man's death or anything, but wouldn't it be great if, to motivate the team, he actually consumed some rat poison before the game
Oh Jesus!
and said, "This is what you guys have been consuming," right? And then Saban takes out, a jar with his skull and crossbones on it, a little vial, and takes a few droplets, drops it into what is it that he's endorsing? Diet Coke or something?
Coke.
He always
It's always Coke. He always has
Yeah.
Coke right there on the.
I mean, how weird is that, right? I mean, where the guy's got a Coca-Cola, he never doesn't drink.
He never drinks it. It's
Right.
just
sitting there because a product placement, obviously.
Yeah, obviously.
But how much money is Coke fueling to Nick Saban? So wouldn't it be great if they dropped something that came out of a little vial with skull and crossbones on it, marked double rat poison, and just drank it in front of the team there in Jackie Sherrill type fashion? And then came close, let it go for a while, like a guy holding a bomb with a fuse that's all the way down to the end. You're thinking, throw that fucking thing. And came close to allowing himself to check out there before paramedics rushed in there and administered the proper medical assistance that he would need to save his life. And then he goes, "Okay, let's go." What? You think they could forget the whole rat poison thing? That they were, believing their own press clippings, as they were, heavily favored to go into the college football playoff, which now looks like a bit of a pipe dream. All right. The professor going to join us here in just a few minutes on the program. That's great, and he is with us this week. He was a late scratch last week, but for a very justifiable and more than excusable
Especially on
reason.
the Degenerate Friday. I mean, if anyone can understand.
I'm not sure whose celebration was wilder, though. The professors or Brandon Lang on our podcast.
I didn't say he was celebrating wildly. I just said when he goes big on these games on Thursdays, sometimes it goes into the wee hours. I didn't say what he was doing.
Whatever he was doing, it was enough to keep him on the mat. He wasn't able to peel himself off last Friday, so we're doubly excited about his appearance on the program. Coming up in just a few minutes here on a Degenerate Friday. Hialeah Park, great place to go. We talk about it all the time with, the highest of praise and the, most sincere of warmth, because these guys have been family to me for a long, long time. I've always supported everything that we've done. And then beyond that, it's well worth it to be somebody that considers himself a friend of Hialeah Park and to endorse them with the kind of sincerity that we can genuinely go ahead and communicate to you, because it always has been a great place to go. All the way back in the day, man. I have some of the greatest, most vivid visual memories of great times at Hialeah Park, whether you were talking about horse racing or now very exciting as they still participate in the sporting world with the boxing matches that they have. They have another one coming up on February 24th. That would be, if you're a first-time starter, a tremendous way to initiate your association with Hialeah Park. If you haven't been there in a while, I'll be out at a local pari-mutuel place punching away later on today, and I always tell people, hey, it'd be worth the drive to get down there to the champion simulcasting room, because while everybody's complaining about, these machines are out, they only got 2 tellers and they're both blind and deaf, the TVs go out all the time, they don't even care. At Hialeah Park, they are there to accommodate the every bizarre whim and idiosyncratic wish of the horse player. A very difficult brand of people to satisfy, Lubie. You know this from being at the track, right? What's the first thing Mayo does after he hits for 1,500? Hey, could have had the try.
Yes, every time.
It's like, stop your fetching. You won't even feel like fetching at Hialeah Park, because you won't be fetching about the check that you get at the bar there when they have like 5 drinks and it's $20 or whatever, as compared to $20 a shot at the Hard Rock. And you're just going to love the vibe in there. Casino is rocking all your favorite Vegas-style games. Poker room is top-notch, run in an extremely professional fashion, and you're really going to like the way they treat you. Customer service unparalleled. Rewards program is off the chart as well, so you get a player's card when you come in there, and enjoy every available minute. And that's a good one with the weekend. But with the 5 a.m. post time for closing, 9 a.m., they open up the doors. So you could just pop yourself into the car in a now well-lit, safe parking lot, which it was always okay, but they've gone out of their way to improve it so that your experience is even better. I just pop into the car. I don't know if they're, going to come knocking on the window there, Mr. DeForest. 2 more hours, no problem. You want us to wake you up at 9? And then you roll in there, and you got the whole weekend going. That beautiful Highly apart. All right, coming back with the professor here and the big board. That'll be part of the proposition coming up in just a moment on a Degenerate Friday on the Defo Show. Mike Lubie Lubitz, Jeff DeForest, Gambling Gourmet later on. We'll have Mark Lawrence's picks as well as we return in a moment. Now that.
The time.
7:50. Ponies in Style at Champions, the outstanding simulcasting room at beautiful Highly Apart. Yes, the grand old lady of thoroughbred racing has never been more vibrant, and you can wager on the races from the top tracks around the country while enjoying a cocktail at the Brass Rail Bar or any of the fine food served throughout the facility. If poker is your game, you're covered in style, and you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette, in Highly Apart's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Highly Apart.
Hey folks, Tony Segreto here. You know, since day one, Catholic Health Services has been part of Old School. And since we've started letting people know about them, it's changed their lives. You see, Catholic Health Services, while being recognized as one of the top places for stroke rehab in the country, it's also about a group of people who not just excel in what they do, from the doctors to the nurses to the therapist, on and on and on. It's how they do what they do every single day that separates them from the pack. They do it with a passion, unmatched, and the inclusion of family in every step of the process. Trust me when I tell you this. If you want the best, unmatched rehab with a special group of skilled, caring people, there is truly only one place, and that one place is Catholic Health Services.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in the Plantation location, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. First of all, they're not only open for delivery and pickup. All you have to do is go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both pickup and free delivery. Their hours have changed a little bit. Monday through Thursday from 3:30 to 10, and Friday, Saturday, and Sunday from 11:30 to 10. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers, Raw Bar and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
How many gamblers did I bail out last weekend with my game of the year? A $100 bettor made $10,000. A $500 bettor made $50,000. Well, I got 6 games on Sunday that I'm releasing absolutely free. These games are a burial, a blowout, a human lock. You can bet your unborn children on these 6 games. Absolutely.
Oh, I believe.
We now return to the Defo Show.
All right, welcome back to the show, a Degenerate Friday, and it's always great to welcome this gentleman back to the program here after a brief hiatus a week ago. Very understandable and justifiable, as we already stated. And Mike Lubie Lubitz, Jeff DeForest, we welcome into our Degenerate Friday proceedings with the big board and his selections on the college football slate as well. The professor, ladies and gentlemen. Professor, how are you today?
I'm not so great, Defo.
What happened?
Every time I come on here, I feel like my character is being assassinated. I'm listening and you're getting out of that last segment, and you're making all sorts of accusations about why I missed the show and where I was.
They were assertions.
Yeah. I'm just saying, I'm preceded by the Greek, who's obviously a great guy, but Lubie's talking about how he sees him gallivanting about town with the augmented women. You never see me out partying. If you see me out and about, I'm a respectable citizen. If you see me out and about, I'm probably with Lubie. There's never any women around. And then you're comparing me to Brandon Lang, who's like the Kim Kardashian of handicappers. Not in terms of his ability, but in terms of like his exposure and his wild lifestyle.
Yeah,
I am not these people. Don't compare me to that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm here. I was smoking a brisket last night. That's my life.
Which end do you like?
I don't. Well, obviously the point.
I mean, these were assertions and insinuations that were kind of implied by Lubie that you were so in celebration. I mean, the
I
Houston
was
Astros locker
celebrating,
room
but again,
didn't
I'm
look
not.
like your
doing?
I'm
celebration
not like
supposed to.
Mr. Wild. You've seen me, Defo. I am not.
No, I know you personally. I would
I'm
have
not a
thought all of that
wild
was
character. Yeah.
was refutable. Although I mean, when you have had a couple of cocktails and maybe some other inebriants in your system, we have known you to maybe be on the brink of breaking through to the other side, as the
Not
great Jim
really.
Morrison would
No.
say. No,
No, I'm not that guy. I'm not a
This is what you
social
mean,
butterfly
dude.
guy. If anything, I'm an anti-social butterfly. I have a couple of inebriants. I'm likely to make a joke
Shut
that I
the
don't
door, yeah.
mean to offend people, but will clear a place out pretty quick. In
You're
my
likely
experience.
to lock yourself into the survival shelter and start eating.
No. I'm not that
food out
kind
of
of
a can.
antisocial. I'm the kind of antisocial that'll, make a socially inappropriate joke or say something.
Oh yeah, no, that's
Say
no
one of
doubt.
those words you can't say anymore in 2022.
Or implying
As
that
you
Bill
well know,
Russell.
as I've missed some appearances on this show because of being censored for maybe using some words you shouldn't use in 2022.
I mean, holy Kyrie Irving. Exactly.
Exactly.
Look what happened there. Was I wrong? Or, I mean, who needs this
Boy,
stuff?
that's such an interesting situation now that he's come out and apologized.
Yeah,
Like,
what happens there?
I
What do
know,
you think?
like Lubie, for example, took that very hard. Can we just sort of come to the conclusion as a society that Kyrie's really not a bad dude? He's just a stupid guy. Like Kyrie's problem is that Kyrie is just smart enough and reads just enough to make himself sound really stupid because he's trying to start like a smart person conversation and he's not actually a smart person. Like we have so many people, we've seen it in the political sphere, we see it in the sports sphere, who really are ill-intended. I don't like Kyrie Irving. I don't like anybody from Duke. As far as I'm concerned, if they want to take all his money away because his association with Coach Ratface, I'm fine with that. But I don't think he's a bad kid. Like I just think, again, the classic example I always use is the old Baltimore Yankees pitcher Mike Mussina, who could not do an interview in any format, be it newspaper, be it radio, be it television. He could not go more than 40 words without mentioning somehow that he went to Stanford and that his favorite hobby was doing the New York Times crossword puzzle in pen. Right. And they're like, oh, you're so smart, Mike Mussina. Yeah, you're going to cure cancer after you get done playing baseball. I think Kyrie has like that same vibe where he wants people to remember that he went to Duke for a year and, he reads this stuff and he doesn't really understand it. So the next thing is he's lecturing on the flat earth theory and this African Hebrew thing. And like somewhere in his brain, it doesn't click like, oh, these are other dumb people espousing things that sound like smart people might say, but actually smart people don't say. Like I feel like the Neil deGrasse Tyson quote.
Yeah, the quote.
Inapplicable all the way.
Play once in a while.
Sure.
He's 100% right because there's a dude who's actually smart about astrophysics who doesn't want to come out and call Kyrie dumb, but is just saying, yeah, Kyrie's dumb.
Oh, no doubt. I mean, I think it's a perfect description of what's happening here. He probably, if he wasn't doing these idiotic things, if he was making these intellectual mistakes on the other side of the equation, everybody would be hailing him as a genius.
He'd be in Congress.
But it's just arbitrary selection that he happens to be embracing a bad opinion.
Honestly, he kind of, really, what should Kyrie be? Kyrie should be a congresswoman. On the right, he fits right in with Marjorie Taylor Greene. On the left, he fits right in with Omar and AOC. Really, if Kyrie wanted to, get a gender change, he could easily be a member of either of the far wings of congresswomen.
And as we say about John Rocker, who cares what some hillbilly relief pitcher thinks about stuff that apparently really doesn't know anything about?
John Rocker, who had like an 8th grade education. John Rocker, who, let's be honest, was the inspiration for Kenny Powers, who when Kenny Powers was on HBO acting like a moron for 10 years, we all laughed hysterically. We all thought that was like the funniest show ever. Yeah. But when John Rocker did it in real life, we wanted to take what he had to say seriously for something.
He wasn't far-fetched,
I think that's half the problem in this country.
Yeah,
we've got going on right now, whether it's politics, whether it's sports, whatever, is we have just lost the inability. We have lost the ability. We now have an inability to say, oh, yeah, that person's just a moron.
Yeah, that's true.
It used to be like...
the bigger moron you are, as evidenced by what's happened politically, the more likely you are to have your statements be embraced. And, Rocker wasn't that far off because I always flash back to the time when I used to leave Shea on the subway and then catch the train to
I feel
Sutphin
like
Boulevard.
you're going to get yourself. I want to interrupt you there. I feel like you're about to get yourself in trouble because
well,
I mean,
but you would look around.
That starts with "I agree with John Rocker" is really
no. I'm just saying that I could see where his insane vision, was formulated because you would look around on the subway car as you were exiting at Sutphin Boulevard and saying, "How fast can I run to the exit?"
Oh, jeez.
Right, and then you would get. I don't know if you're familiar. See, you didn't grow up in New York, but you know where they had that grid thing that you had to go through when you got to the end of the subway. Have you ever ridden on that? And then you have to like kind of slide a gate, and it's almost like a bread slicer, where it meshes with another permanent structure,
Yeah,
and you go right through
those kind of gates. I can't.
Yeah, what the hell is that? I don't even know, but. Sometimes, that was the big fear that what if the fucking gate doesn't work, which was
Jesus.
not an infrequent occurrence. And now you would have to turn around and face what was coming at you. And you were thinking, this is not going to end well, no matter what it is. I mean, your face is going to end up looking like Vito Anafermo after the Hagler fight. I could see where people would formulate bizarre opinions about New York subway people. And then if you happen to have a mind that's a little bit bizarre to begin with, like Rocker, maybe you dive into an unfortunate area. All right, the professor with us here. Yes.
I got one more, Defo, because Lubie and I were talking about this last night, and this plays into one of my personal big stories of 2022. And that is the coaching situation with the Indianapolis Colts.
Okay.
And everybody's on the Colts, insulting them for hiring Jeff Saturday. And not wanting to hire a black coach. And how could they not hire Eric Bieniemy? How could they not hire this black assistant coach, that black assistant coach? Number one, really, like, you didn't learn this lesson like 5 years ago, people? When the Indianapolis Colts tank, they do it all the way. They don't screw around with it.
Exactly.
And they are 100% tanking. And number two, not that I want to point fingers, but I'm about to point yet another one at Manchurian coach Brian Flores. Do you think anybody is ever hiring a black coach to tank again after Brian Flores?
No.
After the guy came down here, told the owner of the Dolphins to go screw himself when he told him to tank, refused to take a bonus for it, ruined the franchise's plans, and then turned around and ratted the Dolphins out to the NFL, and then sued the entire goddamn league because Brian Flores didn't want to tank. Do you think anybody's making that hire for a tank ever again? Because it's not going to happen. Like, that's what the Colts don't screw around with this. Honestly, you're lucky they hired somebody who actually played football.
Yes.
Like, that was surprising. Yeah, they didn't hire Kyrie Irving to be the
I'm a little
coach.
surprised just for like appeal they didn't hire Larry Bird to coach. Or Detlef Schrempf or Rick Smith. Hey, they played in Indiana. Let's just go get them. They're an Indiana athlete. They can coach football. Like, honestly, like when the Colts tank, let's remember it's the same team that drugged Kerry Collins out of a bar to be a quarterback the next day. When the Colts are having a bad year and it's a deep quarterback class, you know what they're doing. They're not going to screw around. Look, hey, Carolina last night couldn't figure out how to lose a game.
Yeah,
the Indianapolis Colts will go that extra mile to make sure they lose a football game.
Point well taken and well founded on logic, especially since I guess another clue was Jeff Saturday being introduced was wearing a T-shirt under his sports coat, and the T-shirt said "Suck for luck" at the press conference when they introduced him. So, I mean, it was a subtle reminder to the Colts fans out there that there's a purpose that goes beyond the surface in his naming as the interim head coach.
Just saying, for these certain sports personalities out here, Jamel Hill seems to always lead the charge.
Oh, they're always outraged, yes.
I just want to be the one who break it to you if you haven't figured it out. Yes, the worst thing that happened to black coaches in the NFL, in the history of the NFL, was Brian Flores.
Exactly.
No black coach is ever going to get hired for one of these kind of jobs again, because no franchise wants to get penalized and sued because of Brian Flores.
Although Lovie Smith might be cooperative.
Who else is doing it in Carolina? They're clearly
again. Yeah, there are these coaches who are loyal soldiers who have been around for. Look, could someone trot out Romeo Crennel again at some point? 100%.
Art Shell is in play.
And like
Art Shell,
I don't blame him.
Upshaw.
Like there's good money in being a loyal soldier. I'm sure Jeff Saturday's getting paid well for this. Better than what a radio gig doing announcing is paying these days.
Well, he's all over TV too. I mean, he's got to be getting millions from ESPN to overanalyze football games. And he actually seems fairly credible. He sounds like he's plugged in. So we'll see what happens. But no, interesting point. And you're right. It'll be a Flores syndrome. That's
exactly
what it's known as. Yeah,
you ruined it for everybody, Brian. You ruined it for the Dolphins for years. Now you've ruined it for all black coaches, probably all Hispanic coaches too, since you like to claim you're not African American, you're Honduran. Right. You ruined it for everybody.
I think he's British.
Nobody can have nice things because of Brian Flores.
Nobody can have nice.
All right. Now you were celebrating Coastal Carolina last week, of course.
I was.
And that was a great pick because they were
celebrating
in command of that
Max and all for the last 2 weeks.
Yeah,
there's nothing I love better than Tuesday and Wednesday night football.
That seems to be a stronghold of yours. It really does over the years.
I love the Mac. Yeah, because nobody pays attention. Last week, you had Kent State, who sort of played Georgia well and has played completely like crap. Like that was laying 7 points to a good Ball State team. Of course, Ball State won straight up because Kent State's been garbage except for the one game where people actually saw them play where they didn't get the total crap beat down by Georgia. And, yeah, that's why I love the MAC. I love Maction.
Goes all the way back to those days at Fishtails with Northern Illinois.
The Jordan Lynch days. For some reason, because I heard him mentioned on the Dan Patrick show the other day. Jordan Lynch has been getting all sorts of run in the media this week. I guess it's because of the return of Maction. People love these Tuesday night games. And we haven't even gotten to the part yet where it's played in a driving blizzard, which is always my favorite part of the year, is when the weather in the Midwest turns to total garbage and you can't even really actually watch the game because you can't tell the actual players from snowmen.
No, you have excelled at that. There's no doubt. And congratulations on, I would imagine, I don't know. Did we venture into 5 figures on this thing? Not including the change?
No comment. Again, I'm assassinating my character once again. I'm a very
you're right. It's fair.
Respectable man about town.
You're a businessman, darn it.
Lubie had you face down on Las Olas Boulevard.
I can't even tell you the last time I went to Las Olas. Lubie has me with the rest of your people. Brandon Lang being a perfect example. Go to all these hot spots. Again, if you see me out, I'm probably with Lubie. Like that's my social life.
That would compromise any chance you had of having fun.
Be at home person.
Although Lubie's adventures sometimes, particularly that one in the trailer park with that woman he picked up at the tiki bar
but
that
that's
night.
like what, 15 years ago at this point. That's a long ass time ago.
It still stands out though, because of all the jackpots that I've been in, in affairs of the heart and or quest for sexual satisfaction, I have never had to face the question or the proposition of a woman telling me just as I'm about to have an orgasm, geez, I don't know if tonight's the night or it's tomorrow that my husband gets out of prison. While you're rocking this woman on a cot in a trailer.
It's a memorable situation, but I would say that happened in a time when we still thought Mark Sanchez was a good quarterback. That's how long ago that was.
Yes, 100%. That's how
we still thought Joe Paterno was a respectable man at that 100%. Point.
Yeah, that's true. We all wanted to be like Papa Joe.
It's a very different day.
There's a lot of water under the bridge since then. In fact, much like right by you, the bridges have been wiped out.
Yeah, what do you make of that? I mean, wasn't that thing on the threshold to collapse anyway?
I really don't know because, again, I'm up here in Lighthouse and there was nothing up. My pool didn't even overflow.
Yeah.
But then I turn on the TV. Deerfield Beach Pier is probably 3 to 5 miles as the crows fly from my house. And I'm watching these waves break over the Deerfield Beach Pier like it's Bell's Beach in the movie Point Break. Like
but that wasn't happening.
See Johnny
there.
Utah and Bodie surfing on Deerfield Beach. That's how big these waves were.
Bodie!
Another good friend of ours lives down by the beach on Sunrise, and all of Fort Lauderdale Beach flooded over. So it seems like these feeder brands brought very disconnected conditions all throughout South Florida.
That foundation had to be weaker than the Dolphins organization for the previous 20 years.
Very possible.
After Marino retired, or the Marlins organization at any time for that matter, with the exception of the 2 seasons where they freaked everybody out and won a championship. But I mean, there's no way from what I saw, and I was out and about that day a couple of times. There was nothing going on here that had the intensity to cause that kind of damage. unless the bridge, I mean, was flimsier than one of those wooden bridges that Rambo used to cross before he just cut a rope and all of the guys that were chasing him in the Vietnamese jungles would go into the river.
Flimsier than the Democrat voting base in the state of Florida.
Yeah, exactly.
At least it was only an Earl Scheib paint job that the Red Wave brought about this time. All right, what do you have on the college slate, Professor? Because there are some games of great intrigue, I believe.
We got 3 dogs. We'll run through them real quick. East Carolina tonight, +5, maybe +4.5, depending on where you're getting it. Going in, East Carolina's been great on these weekday games. Beat BYU 2 weeks ago on a Friday night, so they're coming in off an off week. Playing a Cincinnati team that I think got kind of physically beat up the last time we saw them against UCF. So I'm all over taking East Carolina plus the points tonight. Play that right into tomorrow. And to me, the most mysterious line of the week, it does seem to be trending down a little bit today. It was 8.5 yesterday. I'm seeing it 8. Wouldn't be surprised if it gets a little bit lower than that. And that is Oklahoma laying 8 to West Virginia. We're all over West Virginia at home. No clue why this line is heavy. There's not many teams in the country I think Oklahoma should be favored over by 8 points at this point. And most of them have like a direction in their name, like Southwest Montana, Northeast Louisiana, this, that, and the other. If it's not a directional school, Oklahoma shouldn't be laying north of a touchdown, particularly on the road. West Virginia's actually been very good. People probably looking a little too much at that heartbreaking non-cover against TCU a couple of weeks ago. But if you watch that game, that was a fluke. TCU was running out the clock when, for some reason, they decided to throw a bomb with like 40 seconds left in the game. Only reason they covered that game. So, again, come back West Virginia at home, north of a touchdown. Like I said, showing it at 8 currently. Wouldn't be surprised if it drops a little bit from here to kick off tomorrow. So maybe get it early if you can. And speaking of TCU, that'll take us into the last game, another Big 12 mystery line to me. TCU is probably the most disrespected team in the country at this point. Unbeaten, number 4 in the playoff rankings. But people are already talking about one-loss teams like Tennessee or possibly the loser of Ohio State and Michigan jumping in an undefeated TCU team. A few people even suggested Oregon, who lost to Georgia by, I don't know, like 400 points in week 1, being able to jump TCU in the final standings. I don't get what all the disrespect for. Yes, they've played a series of close games, but it's again been against ranked teams, and they seem to show a knack for big fourth quarters. I don't see any reason not to take them and a touchdown +7 against Texas over the weekend. I respect what Sark has done in terms of bringing in the talent, and I think the quarterback's good, but I don't really hold Texas in the regard that everybody else seems to. The fact is, right at the moment, losing close to Alabama doesn't look like nearly the accomplishment that it did in week 2. Jimbo Fisher's Texas A&M sounding like they want to give Jimbo Fisher $80 million to go away, and he lost to Alabama close. In fact, I'd say a little closer because he had a chance to win from like the 5-yard line at the end of the game. Texas never had that.
All right, very good. The Texas TCU game, and a lot of people were surprised to see who was favored in that game, and especially by as many points.
I wasn't surprised to see that they were favored because they are at home. I was really surprised to see it was as big as it was. I would have made it 2.5 or 3 personally, not anywhere close to a touchdown.
Just out of curiosity, you're giving Lane Kiffin a shot to cover 11 on a hook against.
I am not the Lane Kiffin fan that apparently everybody on your show is.
Like, no, we're not a fan of him.
No, we're not fans. We just prefer him over
Lane Kiffin. Well, okay. Again,
in terms of
you're
evil
very
versus
strange about this because you love Bill Belichick, but you hate Saban. And
yes, and love.
I'm not saying Saban's not bad. Saban is like the Mussolini of the sport of football, which you know who that makes Belichick.
Yeah,
I'm not going to say that.
All right, yeah.
But you do know what that makes Belichick. Look, Lane Kiffin is the human example of nepotism. Like his father's been retired for 10 years, and still, most football people refer to Lane as Monty's kid. Yeah. He has failed his way to the top over and over again. He hasn't really actually beaten anybody at Ole Miss. He just keeps putting up these good results and beating the teams he should beat. They had their chance, honestly, to make a statement a few weeks ago at LSU, and they got clubbed like baby seals in the second half. I'm not as impressed with Lane Kiffin as Ole Miss is apparently are. Could they win? Sure. Alabama's in pretty rough shape right now. They're injured. Bryce Young's playing brilliantly, but pretty much everybody else on the team is not. So could they pull off an upset? Sure. I'm going to be cheering for it? Not really. I'm not really any bigger of a Lane Kiffin fan.
All right. The professor, ladies and gentlemen.
And the
all right, so
last thing
are
we
we?
need, by the way, is another SEC team in the top 10, which Alabama with 3 losses will probably still be like number 8, and all of a sudden
8?
Ole Miss will be 7. No, I'm saying
I think they'll end up number 3. Even if they lose 4, there's going to be some kind of rule change.
okay, and I think I lost you.
Oh, did you? Okay, because we're sort of in and out here. I see Lubie on the phone. The professor, who I'm hearing loud and clear, and hopefully you guys are as well, is still with
Can
us here.
someone nod their head or something if you can hear me, because I cannot hear you.
I hear you.
We hear you.
We hear
we
you.
hear you fine.
We hear
All right,
you.
we're going to give you the stage. If can sign this, where it's your ball game, Professor, with this week's edition of the Professor's Big Board. The Professor's Big Board. All right. There's the cue. Okay. Lubie, with a printed version of that, we're going straight to the big board if you can't hear us, Professor. Which apparently you can't, because I'm talking and there's no acknowledgement whatsoever.
Weird thing.
In fact, I could say Belichick is the greatest coach. Do you agree, Professor? That ever walked the face of the earth. Big board, my friend.
All right,
Big
we're going to go to the
Yeah.
big board because I have lost audio on the Defo end, so we're just going to go for it. And there's been a lot of things going on this week, the world of politics, the world of sports. And, well, we got a few things we need to talk about, as we often do around here. And that's going to take us to this week's big board, which I'll have to do without reactions, which is unusual. And that is, this week's big board is the big board of cheaters, con men, and crazy people, which has sort of been the theme throughout the world this week. And again, since I can't get reactions or feedback, I'm just going to go ahead and jump into it. And that takes us to number 5. I think we can firmly at this point call everything involving cryptocurrency a world of con men. And that, of course, led to the collapse of FTX this week, a prominent currency, cryptocurrency exchange. In fact, I think probably the second largest one on the planet was the number I saw. And it led to some bad things for a lot of people. A lot of people lost a lot of money, but it led to some good things too, which is Tom Brady and Giselle had taken a large equity stake in the cryptocurrency exchange FTX. It seems uncertain at this point if this was actually just a compensation stake based on endorsements, or they lost real cash. Let's hope they lost real cash, because one thing we would love to see is Tom Brady go through those last rough years and have to play till he's like 55 years old because he's lost all his money for being part of this cryptocurrency scam. Giselle, we know, will be okay because she's probably got some gold and some artwork of questionable provenance that used to be owned by a certain French family up until the late 1930s, stashed away somewhere. But Tom Brady, we could actually get those Muhammad Ali fighting Larry Holmes years out of Tom Brady and watch him get very badly injured by 20-year-old defensive tackles. And I, for one, am here for it. So wouldn't mind seeing the reaction there with Tom Brady having to play out the string because he's lost all his money in a cryptocurrency scam. But we here at the big board are to provide a solution, not just for Tom Brady and Giselle, but for the Miami Heat, who have an FTX problem as well.
Yes.
As you know, FTX is the title sponsor of the Miami Heat Arena, and we have a dual solution. 5A, let's take it to the slide. And that is, you may have forgotten, but before the Heat took the FTX sponsorship, the company Bang Bros offered the Miami Heat $10 million for naming rights to their arena, which they were going to name the BBC, the Bang Bros Center. And I want to say that, number one, Bang Bros will still probably come through for the Miami Heat. And really, what could be a better sponsorship? It's not like people don't already correlate Bang Bros with the city of Miami. And I'm going to say, I'm pretty sure Bang Bros would come up with some money for Tom Brady and Giselle as well. Like, if Tom Brady and Giselle really need the money, I feel like the opportunity is there to dive into that particular world. I'm just saying. I think we have some synergy going on.
All right. Excellent stuff.
That'll take us to number 4, which is, speaking of con men, Ted Cruz gets a beer thrown at him at the Houston Astros Victory Day parade. I want to be very clear here. I do not like Ted Cruz. I do not like the current incarnation of the Republican Party. It is not okay to throw things at people who speak differently than you. It is not okay to enact violence against people who feel different politically from you. use your words, people, not your violence. That said, it's kind of okay to throw things at Ted Cruz. And it's definitely okay to throw things at Houston Astros fans. Like, Houston Astros fans definitely deserve to have beers thrown at them. Ted Cruz definitely deserves. So it's not okay to throw beers at people who disagree with you politically, but it's kind of okay to throw stuff at Ted Cruz. I'm not going to lie. And look, I'm just following in the history of Donald Trump, who, if you can remember, at various points accused Ted Cruz's father of being the Zodiac killer and accused Ted Cruz's father of being part of the plot to assassinate JFK. So, as the slide says, perhaps a second thrower from the grassy knoll threw a beer at Ted Cruz. And we can't be sure that the beer came from the book depository.
Oh, my God.
And you see Ted Cruz's reaction there is back into the left. Back into the left. Back into the left. Where the beer can came from. It could have been from a variety of sources.
Yeah. All right. Excellent. Hopefully the professor, can you hear us now, Professor?
I can hear you now.
Oh, good. Because, it's a big part of this thing.
Number 3 comes from a story that was supposed to be a lot happier and now has gotten weird. I don't know what the situation is, but I made these next 2 slides up on Tuesday and Wednesday when, frankly, I thought Lauren Boebert was going to lose. And I wanted to remind everybody that part of one of the greatest tag teams of the 1980s, the Midnight Express, presented by Jim Cornette, Beautiful Bobby, Sweet Midnight Express. Wanted to remind you that Lauren Boebert and her mother harassed Stan Lane for nearly 2 decades, claiming that Stan Lane abandoned father, despite the fact that he took 3 different paternity tests, all of which said he was not her father. To this day, Lauren Boebert's mother continues to stalk him on social media, and I've lost you again, just by the way.
You're kind of going intermittently in and out as well,
Lauren
if you can
Boebert's
hear
mother
us.
continues to harass Stan Lane over paternity issues, claiming that a test in North Carolina was rigged, despite the fact there's no evidence of that. Totally different. Instead of Sweet Stan, if Beautiful Bobby was the man who abandoned Lauren Boebert's mother during her pregnancy, because honestly, Beautiful Bobby was always the better wrestler than Sweet Stan. Sweet Stan had that Shawn Michaels knockoff drop kick, but other than that, really didn't bring much to the table. Neither one of them had that big a singles career. It's also worth noting, by the way, that Lauren Boebert's mother chased after Sweet Stan for that sweet wrestling money when the guy was like the number 5 tag team in 1980s NWA wrestling. It wasn't like she was going after the Hulk Hogan dollars at this point.
Oh, my God, that's great.
That's great. I mean, hopefully
Speaking
you
of
can pick
Lauren
us up
Boebert,
again.
so we're going to move on to number 2. She's also related. And again, unfortunately, we still don't know if Lauren Boebert won or lost. It's looking increasingly like maybe she
might have squeaked it out at the wire.
Win this race.
Yeah.
But speaking of, on Twitter, Lenny Dykstra took his shot when he thought Lauren Boebert had lost Wednesday morning. Came in to drop in that he was sorry that she lost the election, and that if she needed somebody to talk to, she could DM Lenny Dykstra at any time. Now, again, Lauren Boebert's got some issues. That restaurant, she had the weirdo one where everybody wore guns and it gave like 80 people diarrhea in one day. That, by the way, is a percentage not even Arby's can compete with. But she may, if she loses this election, have some things to go. So even though Lenny Dykstra no longer seems to have any money left, just owns 1 car wash now and seems to be broke other than that, Lenny Dykstra might look like a good option. And some people are going to say, hey, you know what? That could work out. Sort of both pseudo celebrities, sort of infamous at the same time. I will tell you personally that if any couple is going to produce the Antichrist, it is Lenny Dykstra and Lauren Boebert. Like, I am not a biblical guy, but if those two have a kid, I'm going to start to believe in Revelations. There's no way that's not Damien if Lenny Dykstra were to knock up Lauren Boebert. So I don't really want to see this coupling. If you are a biblical type, it's time to start to get your collection together and be as good as you can, because we can't be that far away from the revelation at that
end
point.
of days.
All right. The professor, continuing.
And that takes us to number 1. Which is a guy I'm going to go the other way on.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody in America seems to love this man at this point, and he is the con man of all con men, in my personal opinion. All of that, and that is Mattress Mac up north. I am so tired of you, Mattress Mac. I was tired of you before all this Astros crap, and now I am 10 times worse on you. Number one, you are now calling yourself the world's most famous gambler. You're not a gambler. What you're doing is not betting. When you bet, you can win or you can lose. What you are doing is hedging, because you make these outrageous bets and you offset them with these stupid, and you take the tax write-off and profit either way. If you're gambling, there's a win or there's a loss. There's no in between. So Mattress Mac now claiming he's the greatest sports gambler. You didn't gamble. You didn't bet. This was all a hedge based on tax write-offs for your furniture store, which, by the way, you invested millions upon millions of dollars. You have. So, yes, if you remember those jerk-offs who used to stand on the corner of US 1 in Oakland every weekend for like 3 years when Obama was president and jam up traffic every weekend, those people only had the money to do that because of freaking Mattress Mac. Okay? And then he goes to Philadelphia. You know, look, say what you want to say about the fans of Philadelphia, but no one loves their sports more than the people of Philadelphia. And what does he do when he has surrounded by armed security? He yells curse words at a guy, and then when he's asked about it, he says, because the guy insulted Jose Altuve for being a cheater. Well, I hate to be the one to tell you, Mattress Mac, he called him a cheater because Jose Altuve is a freaking cheater. You're just like a cheated chess player who's now suing other chess players for billions of dollars because they called him a cheater after he got caught cheating. Your Houston Astros got caught cheating. You stupid. And you're, again, big man, got 3 cops surrounding him with guns, yelling, blank you, you blank hole, because the guy called a cheater a cheater. Well, when do we get to this point in this country? Houston Astros fans are now the new New England Patriots fans, freaking out at people for telling the truth.
Excellent, as always.
Man,
yeah, we're going to. Unfortunately, we apologize for the intermittent transmission problems we had there. Kind of took some of the impact of the professor's big board out of play there, but an excellent job nonetheless by the professor. Because if you can still be compelling doing this sort of stuff through transmission problems, as we experienced many times when we were, invaded by gremlins on various radio remotes, which we were the king and undisputed kings of blown remotes when we were at 940 wins over the 12 years. I mean, all kinds of crazy stuff would happen, whether it was interference from all of a sudden when we were at Porky's, they didn't tell us they were going to turn the music on at a decibel level that was going to possibly blow up the entire city. Yeah. Say goodbye.
Oh, just by the way, we have a special guest. It's been a while since we've had this gentleman on. You've worked with him for almost 25 years. So I figured it's time to bring back, especially on the Degenerate Friday, the one, the only, the Pauly Man.
No, get out of here.
For a few minutes before we get, I figure if we don't have Mark Lawrence, a guy who put us on to Mark Lawrence, the legendary Pauly Man joins us. Good morning.
Are you kidding me? Pauly Man.
Hey, how you doing, guys?
There's no more frequently asked question than, first, is a Pauly Man still alive? And then B, what's he up to? And I'm glad you're here to verify both things are in the positive frame. Pauly Man, how are you? My beloved friend, the Pauly Man, ladies and gentlemen. How are you, my friend?
Good, Dave. Good. Professor's fantastic. And it's so true. Like with the Houston Astros, the first thing I thought, this isn't a movie.
Yeah.
You know, this is real life where the cheating dogs come back and win another World Series.
Exactly.
Of course, real life. Come on.
Yeah, and I mean, it was this Zapruder film reenacted there when this guy hurls a beer can at Ted Cruz, and the first thing you're thinking, as horrible as it is wow, why did he miss?
Exactly.
It was like when that guy with the shoe came after George Bush. You're thinking, geez, somebody, be able to connect with the right hand. What have you been up to, Pauly Man? And I would imagine, I don't know. I know if it would have been anybody, it would have been us that would have invested heavily in crypto like a couple of days ago.
Exactly.
So are you okay in that regard?
Yes, fine.
I thought right away about the time that we bought all of those payphones right before our Apple came out and said, hey, we've got a new innovation here. Everybody can have one of these.
Oh my
They're
All right.
just enjoying the aftermath of the Breeders' Cup. We had spoke briefly about Flightline, if you recall, after maybe his first start or maybe second start. And man, oh man, he's I have a top 25 list of horses that I actually saw. I wasn't around for Seabiscuit or Man of War, but
You weren't?
and everybody moves down a notch.
Yeah.
Man, what a racehorse! Holy mackerel, unbelievable.
I'm watching the race, and life is good. I guess they felt their only chance was to blow him away on the front end, which made some sense. And I remember, the first time I was out at Santa Anita, and I saw the clock register at 107 and 4 for a 6 furlong race, and I thought, my God, I never seen anything like this. Right? I haven't watched races all the time at Belmont and Aqueduct, and you'd see the occasional 108 and change. And then I'm looking at the 3/4 time in this 1.25 mile race. And if I'm not mistaken, I don't know if the clock was off. Didn't they post like a 107 and change for the first 6 furlongs of that race?
The clock was off.
Okay.
I think though they still went like something like 109 and 1. So come on.
Wow. And this horse is stalking that leader, the entire time at a blistering suicidal pace for the distance. And, everybody else is laying back, and there was some reasonable quality in the field. Reason to believe that if these two horses were going that fast, that, both of them were going to end up backing up and ended up last and next to last. And then this horse steps on the accelerator and flies. Usually I'm very skeptical, though. I know you are, too. Maybe, your opinion has changed over the years, but I want to say there was always, guys that grew up in New York and were sneaking into Aqueduct and Belmont and Yonkers and Roosevelt. Sort of a bias against the West Coast pretty boy Bob Baffert, $1 zillion horse. And you were thinking that the East Coast was going to show that they were superior, but this one certainly lived up to all of its billing.
Yeah, I was one of those East Coast guys. I always had a bias against the West Coast horses, but man, oh man, I never saw nothing like. Well, nobody's ever seen nothing like this. He's just unbelievable. So I guess they did the right thing for the game. I'm sure everyone wished they get to see him again next year, but they did the right thing. How the word freak is bandied about all the time. A horse like Windsor's Maiden Special by 3 city blocks, and people start talking, but wow, this really is the freak of all freaks. So with that, he goes to the top of my list, Defo. Secretariat moves to second.
Oh, wow.
Kelso third. Dr. Fager fourth. Spectacular Bid fifth. And Seattle Slew sixth. The top 6 of my top 25.
Oh, wow.
Wow. I mean, and like you said, you've seen them all. Is it that you didn't see Seabiscuit, or you just don't remember? Because that's the way I'm thinking. I probably was around when the Biscuit was winning, that match race over War Admiral. All right. Do you envision yourself, Pauly Man? You've had some success in this area. I guess it was early on in the game with the Fantasy Fives, but are you the kind of person that envisions yourself saying, hey, why not me? When the jackpot for the Powerball got into the $2 billion range, obviously you have to take a shot at that. Have you ever found yourself in this circumstance where, you were arguing with the lovely Lily as to how the funds would be dispersed? When you won, and prior to the fact, obviously, of the drawing, but I found myself in, an irreversible fight with the Mustang because she objected to me giving all of my friends $5 million.
Fake money that had never come in.
Yeah, man.
She was like, what do you mean, Lubie, $5 million? Look what you did for this kid. And I'm like, nothing, man. That guy's
so true.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lily was already buying houses for everybody.
Yeah,
like
that's me.
14 people. Who like number 12 on the list? Who's this guy?
Yeah. Who's a schmuck?
He's a distant relative. I don't even know who this guy is.
We're in a violent, argument that almost was bordering on a 911 call over the fact that I was going to buy a house for her sister. And then literally she says to me, fuck my sister. And I said, no, I don't want to fuck your sister. I just want to buy her a house. And then that led to an argument. What do you got against my sister? I'm like, well, nothing. But you know that gamblers can't win when it comes to affairs of the heart. In your lifetime, Pauly Man, I mean, you know it, as well as anybody, the contrarian theory. Could you ever have put a dime on Carolina last night?
Oh my God.
No.
But you're the kind that will sit chilly in that spot, whereas most of us that have to have action on every game are going screen to screen. When we're at the track, I mean, here's a race, a 3-horse field at Laurel, and you're trying to bet exactas. I mean, unless
it wasn't that big of a surprise, though, right? I mean,
no, that's the thing.
The NFL is so unbelievable, and I got to say, Steve, for Dolphin fans now, got to be ecstatic, right? Win or lose, are they like one of the most exciting teams? Like, forget it.
Great.
Any position, the guy can fly. Fly. Their receivers, their running backs, and now do they have? This is the question I wanted to say. I know they got 2 Wilsons, number 11, and they just picked up number 23.
Yeah.
49ers, but aren't they both on their jersey? Doesn't it say Wilson Jr. on both of them?
Oh, it might. Yeah,
it's very possible. Yes, that was probably an oversight.
I saw 2 guys arguing the other day about this, and the guy asked me. I said I thought they were both Wilson Jr. also, but I don't know. I don't know if that's possible. Having 2 guys with the jersey Wilson Jr. on there.
I always liked that when the 2 fighters had the same last name. Right? This way, when you were calling a match, no matter how stoned you were, it was impossible to juxtapose them.
To get it wrong.
And I still remember a very awkward moment early in my play-by-play career in boxing where I was, sort of on the fringe there. You're hoping to do a good job. And the fight doctor had juxtaposed the name of the 2 fighters. So how do you correct him? And the guy was working with Marv Albert on the NBC Saturday shows. Who am I? DeForest, a Jewish kid from Brooklyn. I go, no, Ferdy, that's Ortiz in the black trunks. It was a fucking fight doctor.
What do you think about these Dolphins? Pretty amazing, huh?
Well, we've been saying it for years, and I think you were more, in agreement. Obviously, if you're not going to be great, be entertaining at least.
Fun.
Sure.
You're trying to provide entertainment. Jimmy Johnson was always an advocate. Speed. You need speed. Chasing a chicken around the parking lot there with Balboa. And when you see, actually, the good thing is that Tyreek Hill, for as pricey as he was, I was trying to think. We were talking with Tony Segreto about a more significant acquisition in a trade or even free agency for the Dolphins than what this guy has brought to the table.
Mentality.
Yeah, right.
And a guy that was kind of, thought of as, one of these aloof, not quite fringe Kyrie Irving types at one time, like a guy that, had a bad seed inside of him. Couldn't be a better, more infectious, positive teammate than he's been. So one of the great acquisitions so far in South Florida sports history in terms of a trade that made an impact on a franchise. Still not sure, though, where it all goes. With all of this being said, I don't know. Where do you stand in the argument about Justin Herbert versus Tua at this stage, with Tua leading statistically in a lot of categories, but still, Pauly Man, you know how it is. When a guy can't throw the big one consistently, that comes back to haunt you, no?
Yeah, no, that's for sure. But again, I don't know where it leads. Playoffs, championships. I don't know, but like you said earlier, the excitement level is such that you really can't wait to see them play. You want to see them go on offense. Really, really, really. And isn't the running back? Wasn't the agent to the Stars?
Yes.
Wasn't that his guy?
Runs hard.
Yeah. Oh my God, he's a good running back, and I'm happy he came back after the knee injury. He's another one. He can fly also, and he's a good running back.
Well, and this McDaniel guy, I mean, he's out there a little bit, right? I mean, at times, he has such a strange approach to, his, descriptions of what's going on out there that, he kind of reminds me of those interviews with Truman Capote when he's at the podium, when he used to be on like David Susskind or Dick Cavett. the way he speaks, I don't know. It's like a similar pattern, and you're thinking, what is this guy talking about? But I mean, when you look and you see like telestrator illustrations, and you just see these guys, the way they're running, it's the old in the streets of the Bronx, Pauly Man, when we used to run the crisscross at the sewer.
And go make a left by the Pontiac.
And then you see guys like just coming into the clear. It's really a great, you can see there's some design to the system there with these crossing patterns over the middle. And the picks are being set like you were running into Bill Lambier. It's fantastic. Exactly. And then they're getting away with it. All right, Pauly Man, great stuff as always, man. Are you game? I have a couple of meetings in conjunction with the resurrection of the concept of the geezers at Caesars, which I think it's about time. We got the band back together.
I'm actually have a meeting today just about that.
Oh, good, because I think something's going on. I hope it's not with the same guy. Because he never mentioned your name, and I'm sure he meant.
Are you kidding me?
That was the the credibility of what was actually happening there, considering the source. No, I think it's coming back. So I'm glad you're on your game, Pauly Man. And the people out there love you. It's it used to be the most frequently asked question: what does a Pauly Man look like? And now it's is the Pauly Man still with us? And how's he doing? But you're obviously
a pertinent question too.
Over players are rejoicing, Pauly Man. You sound great.
You sound really good.
So that's fantastic. All right, thanks so much, Pauly Man. It's a pleasure, my friend.
Thank you. Great talking to you guys. Thank you.
All right, talk to you.
All right, so much. Wow, Lubie. That was, you talk about legendary voices on the South Florida radio and streaming airwaves here, the Pauly Man Paul Messell. All right, Mike Mayo is coming up, the Gambling Gourmet. We're going to wrap up this Degenerate Friday with Michael. Now, I've been having a great time with this kid, and I'm hoping he's available to go out there and try and be, the conqueror once again, right? Was it William the Conqueror? Who was the Conqueror, man?
I don't know.
Bill?
Yeah, William the Conqueror. I don't know who the hell he is.
Conqueror.
That's the name. Yeah, the name was William the Conqueror.
Back in the day, man, this guy was slaying him, man. Whether he was going to the harness races, dog races, it didn't matter.
I don't know if he was going to the dog race. The harness race. It probably wasn't
William
harness.
the Conqueror.
It was more like Roman harness, not your upstate New York harness.
I'm being convinced over time that as curmudgeon-like as he tends to be, as negative as he views things that are possibly coming up in your future, like imminent death, that this man is a good luck charm for me. I really believe this.
Seems you guys do
situations. Well. Yeah.
You seem to do well.
We'll have the Gambling Gourmet coming up. Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill. We're all trying to get down there, and we'll make those final arrangements.
One of these days.
Final arrangements.
One of these days.
The final arrangements have been made for your appearance, Jimmy's going to be down there. It's going to be a ball, man. And look, I think this weekend and into next week going to be spectacular weather.
Yeah, the weather's
here
amazing.
in South Florida. Wow. I mean, I saw some forecasts. I'm heading for Atlantic City next week, where it's going to be 32 degrees.
Yeah, exactly.
You're indoors most of the time anyway. I do like the occasional walk on the boardwalk, and I do my walk of life there. I have a nice little route around Harris there that's all by the water and on a nature trail. It's amazing that any nature trail could lead to a giant casino, but only in Atlantic City. Where 1 minute you're looking at, seagulls, in natural preserve environment, and the next minute you're in the Borgata racebook, looking at a bunch of mafia wannabes in the corner going, what are you talking about? My farm used to be free here, Joe. And, these are people that you don't necessarily want to insult. So, they're usually very accommodating. But, it's going to be cold outside, but it's going to be beautiful here. So if you are watching or listening in the Northeast, come on down to Florida. Go to Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill. Check out the accommodations at jimmyjohnsonsbigchill.com because they are overwhelmingly spectacular. They are so great. It's very hard to really describe, and I can only tell it to you this way. I couldn't let Lubie see the room that we had.
Yeah, you're very good about that.
Because he would have already, whatever resentment he holds towards me for, sort of being like the guy that gets the favorable accommodations. And I'm not really like that in general.
Normally. You were that weekend. I was in the corner.
He's on a cot in the back of a Ford Fairlane.
You're like
somewhere outside of Isla Morada, and I am living honestly in the most luxurious accommodations I've ever had anywhere, and that's saying a lot because I've been accorded a lot of big favors by people in the casino industry because of now the degenerate habits of my wife, which is great. I mean, we're going to get another spectacular room there in Atlantic City where not even Chris Christie could command this kind of company. And he would need it because he's a little bit on the rotund side. And I can't wait. I'm into limo us all over the place, whatever. Oh, you need a ride over there to Chef Fuller's? No sweat. We'll have a car waiting for you. It's always nice because you want to get dropped off right at the door there because you don't want to walk down the block.
Yeah.
It's one of those weird things. Wasn't that supposed to be an area of improvement? It's like these arenas that go up.
Yes.
And they're going to improve the immediate surrounding area, but then you still, when you go there, you have, your heart in your throat.
Yep.
And you're on New York City mode where you're checking your back pocket every second to see if your wallet's still in there.
100%.
In fact, you don't even keep your wallet in your back pocket. You stick it right up your ass. So if you're gonna rob me, you're going into a place of darkness. Dark cavity of my life. All right, which is appropriate. You want to chill out if you're in that kind of psychotic mode at Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill. Mile Marker 104 on the Overseas Highway, Key Largo. Great food and drink, tremendous atmosphere, live music all day, Saturday, Sunday, a very festive place. And we want to bring the Pauly Man down there because nobody relaxes like the Pauly Man in those situations. When you see the Pauly Man with a racing form and a cocktail with an umbrella in it, 9 o'clock in the morning, like we used to be when we take those Bahamas freebies trips. There was nothing quite like seeing a man that had finally found his place in the universe. You'd found your space. It was one of those Carlos Castaneda things where you found your place, right? Like a dog curling up in the corner underneath the Christmas tree. So you'll enjoy it. You'll feel like you're in Utopia. Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill, Mile Marker 104, the Overseas Highway in Key Largo. Coming right back with the Gambling Gourmet, Mike Mayo, in a moment. Now that. He has a good luck charm, this kid. It's 8:47.
Folks, Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously. Friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. All those ingredients, no pun meant there, are hard to find unless you're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. You see, they encompass all of those attributes. Really, really good food, amazing atmosphere, good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs, unmatched. Steaks, hand-cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. It's the one day, folks, that you can forget about low-carb diets. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-453-9066.
He'll fight Brian Cox in the locker room. He'll challenge Bill Parcells to a verbal shout-out. He'll stare down Johnny Chan while holding pocket twos.
And then he goes
Mike
to
Mayo,
the
the
London
Gambling
Business
Gourmet.
School for the savants.
How about that? Yeah.
I will crush
London
your
School
hopes
of
and
Finance.
dreams with it.
Mike
Oh,
Mayo, the Gambling Gourmet, joins us here.
I do all those things, and I also crush your hopes and dreams with a 3-word text giving you the bad news about game one.
Well, this was particularly brutal, Michael. I thank you for doing that.
The modern day odd couple, Defo and Lubie, are on now. It is, of course, the Defo Show.
All right, one thing. All right, I do believe this, or I did it one time. I'm not sure where it stands today, but I believe that Mike Mayo, the Gambling Gourmet, got a subliminal satisfaction out of being a kiss of death for any of our pipe dream wagers, like the over on a Marlins seasonal total. And I do remember that. Yeah.
Now I'm your rabbit's foot. Like you want
You
me
are.
around. You're gonna
That's
pay
so
to bring me out to your.
Have we had a
exhibition.
losing day? I mean, it's
No,
been
it's
3 or 4
the
times
knock
now.
wood. Unfortunately, I've got to do a lot of work today, and my daughter. They were supposed to have a high school playoff game at her school. She was going to be cheerleading, and then I get the afternoons off. I don't have to pick her up. But they postponed the game till Monday, the playoff game, American Heritage against some school from Northern Palm Beach, and they had some storm problems. So the other team asked for a delay. So the playoff game is going to be Monday. So I am out of commission this afternoon. I can't make it to your weekly expedition. So my apologies. I hope that you can keep the good
It's not
times rolling.
necessarily good for me. I mean,
No.
because you had them all out
But-
there last time. Sarney, Dickstein.
Yeah,
every one of
Dickstein
them.
might be available for rent. He seemed to be a good luck charm.
Good luck charm, no doubt.
Yeah. Well, good morning, guys. I got 2 questions for you before
All
we
right.
get into it.
How about the Pauly Man too? I mean,
that was that was fantastic, and I got to give you Defo credit because some people are like just superb spotters of talent, but you have spotted the 2 most distinct and really I guess what's the word?
Unusual?
I was going to say unusual, but it's unexpected voices in radio between the Pauly Man. Hey, how you doing?
Yeah.
And then
Yogi Berra.
and then we got and then we've got, of course, the Lubie Man, who looks like I thought he was sprung loose from captivity yesterday, but it looks like his captors still have him holed up in an undisclosed location.
Yes.
Maybe we could make enough money this weekend to be able to afford the ransom.
The pullback will have 2 guys in ski masks with AK-47s pointed at his headset there.
Yeah, we just want to keep him happy,
Yeah.
and we want free Lubie. All right, 2 questions. First of all,
Yes.
I don't know if you wished anybody, especially our veterans, a happy Veterans Day.
Saluting our veterans. No
It is a bank holiday, and I'm just wondering because I'm of age that I kind of missed the whole Vietnam Michigan.
I was very much immersed in that. Yes.
Were you in the draft? Did you have a draft dodging story, or did you have bone spurs?
Eligible, and the one I was still in school, of course, obviously, since I went the distance there before the draft was abolished. But I was subject to the draft lottery. And it was so insane. I mean, because everybody figured, hey, if you had a high number in the draft lottery, if you were, a high draft pick, it was very undesirable if you didn't want to be involved in this sort of thing. And not to be anti-American, but we were highly objectionable. We were not in favor of this war whatsoever when I was going to the Qs. And that was a big turnaround from just like a year or 2 prior. When people were thinking, oh, yeah, let's go in there and jam them up and, this is a good thing, stop communism. But nobody bought these theories anymore. So anyway, they were actually giving the numbers to the draft lottery on the news on the radio. And I remember I worked a game at Shea, an afternoon game, and I was driving home and I hopped in the car and I'm listening to the radio to get the numbers. And the first 3 of 5 numbers were in the month of July, which is my birth month. So you're sitting there, tuned into a car radio, and it was almost like when I used to turn on the race results. When I don't know if they did this in New York, but in California, the all-news station every half hour would play the stretch call of the races from Santa Anita.
Yeah, they did that.
Which I thought was a dynamite feature.
INS, I think.
Yeah.
The Belmont feature race on Saturday. They would play the stretch call of the Dave Johnson and then Marshall Cassidy. I remember that.
Yeah. And it was. I remember leaving the track one day when I was getting buried with my friend Mighty Melendez, and we listened to the stretch call, and we bought home a winner at the Orange County Fair at Los Alamitos, and we actually turned the car around to go back to the track in the middle of LA traffic at rush hour to go back and collect our ticket because we were screaming in the car as we heard the stretch call. And so each time they went through a day that was not July 5th, I was in celebration. So I did miss that, but what I remember,
you missed out by luck. By basically, that was where your gambling career began. Your
possibly, I wouldn't have had to go anyway. Yeah,
because save your life.
They did abolish the draft like a couple of years later, and then of course the war ended while I was still in school.
Lubie's too young for any of this, but when I guess Reagan brought back not the draft, but the fact that when you turned 16 or 17, you had to register, in case they recalled the draft or something like that. So the big question for people my age was, do we even do that, or are we going to get in trouble? I did my duty. I signed up, I registered, and thankfully they never did reinstitute the draft. Although
I'm not sure I would have done well in Vietnam. Thinking back to
I'm a
where
lover,
my
night
mental
of
state
Friday.
was at the time. Yeah, I mean, and I do remember this though very vividly, and it kind of gives you a little perspective on how horrible it was because there was a guy on a veterans bill that was in the dormitory room when I was a freshman, and I was very naive as a freshman at Syracuse, and he had been in Vietnam. And this guy, his mind was seriously impacted by whatever it was that he experienced.
War
there.
is hell.
Yeah, I mean, and you couldn't imagine. I mean, this was before Apocalypse Now, but it really was. I mean, I keep reflecting back on it. I still remember a few things that happened with this guy, and we were friends. And I was thinking the horror had to be extreme.
No, and that's
for
why
him to
we
get to
pay
this point.
tribute today, and we say thank you for your service. For whether the war is unpopular or just or not. I mean, a lot of people get caught up in situations, and those who served after 9/11, who joined for a just cause, and then served in either Afghanistan and then maybe Iraq, maybe not such a just cause. But again, we give them our gratitude, and we know that a lot of them are dealing with a lot of things. So today we do say thank you, and we remember. Then this brings me to question number 2. Defo, what the fuck is up with you and that pier? I mean, you are just obsessed with this pier.
Well, your structural
wants people to
engineering
know.
discourse yesterday, I thought was a little far fetched because that thing had to be teetering on the balance of collapse long before. It wasn't, a perfectly sound structure, and then
But
all of a sudden,
you hit
these
the nail
nothing
on
waves destroyed it.
You hit the nail on the head. It's a private pier, so the guy probably did, put it up with.
And that guy, the
cheesecloth
restaurateur there,
and-
Spiro, he is still there.
Yeah.
He was being interviewed on the news yesterday.
Okay, good for him. It's his pier, and now nobody can take a long walk of it. They can take a short walk.
Short walk
They'll fall
of
down.
not even a long pier. Yeah.
But
if you were thinking about jumping, you're going to get to the decision-making time. It's like you're going to either go for it on 4th down, McDaniel, or kick the field goal. Your decision comes up a lot quicker.
But you're okay. This storm wasn't big. We didn't get hugely destructive squalls, but what we did get was a king tide and some really rough seas, and that's what caused all this. If you look down in Hollywood,
Now
and
you're
there was
Jacques
all this-
Cousteau on this thing. I mean,
No,
what are you
now,
talking about?
yeah, I'm just saying that the sea was very rough, okay? And you're like saying like this thing must have been so flimsy. No, it was the sea was doing some damage. Oh, and to answer your question about up in Daytona and along that coast there, I don't know if
That
you
was
ever-
ugly.
If you've ever driven up along New Smyrna Beach and then above Daytona Shore, that those houses are literally like right up, overlooking the ocean. A1A
It's like the
is
Pacific
right across the street.
Palisades.
Yeah, well, but they're little. They're not the most grand homes. Or at least they weren't the last time I drove by there. But again, they're right on the ocean, and when the ocean comes up into your backyard, it's going to
The wind and all of that was much more intense there, though. I mean, it's always weird when you see the range just absolutely slamming the area where these hurricanes make landfall. And when I finally saw some of that footage, it was like, wow. I mean, this would have been no bargain if it made a direct hit here. That's
it's
for
like
sure.
meteorologist Mike said earlier this week. The north side of the storm was going to be the really.
Oh, you were
and
wild
it
man
was.
on that. Yeah. Were you making most of that shit up, or was that based on any kind of parametric factual material?
Meteorology merit badge and my Eagle Scout. That was the extent of my service. I was never in the military, but I was an Eagle Scout, and I had to learn about weather when we were going on hikes, and was it going to be safe to,
Did you ever learn in your experience as a scout, a Boy Scout, Eagle Scout, subsequent to that, that it's always better to be the house in any betting proposition?
Of course, that was
because that was the case last night, man. Nobody, honestly, you would have had to go see a shrink if you were laying your money on Carolina. They actually would have called from the sports book for immediate medical and psychological help for anybody that walked in there and said, Carolina, money line.
So
taking you right off the track in an ambulance.
You bring me to a couple of good questions about this whole, you've got NFL games now on every venue, like the streaming services, and then you've got the foreign games, and you've got the Sunday night games. Why the fuck are they picking these dog games? I mean, I know that it's like these games are terrible. And like even, last week, CBS had the afternoon game why the fuck would they show Rams Bucks? I mean, I know it's like
Well,
a
it looks like a glamour
NFC
game.
championship matchup, but
Brady.
can't you adjust on the fly and say the biggest game last week was Jets Bills, and it was actually the most exciting game last week?
You wouldn't have
As
thought
it turned
that,
out, Tampa turned out that was an exciting finish.
It was exciting,
but the game itself was dreck. I mean, all the way through.
Dreck until the last
the end,
minutes.
until the last like 2 minutes.
And
this game last night, though, it was only watchable if you had a wager on the ball game. Other than that, it was absolute garbage. No question.
I was breaking my poker tournament drought. I found.
You hit
last night. Well, not for very much. It was a min cash, but finished 25th out of 249 players.
Were you able to buy a pretzel on the way out?
I was able to buy a cocktail on the way out. That was
okay.
Basically blew
You're
my
not comped a
profits on
cocktail with all of your hours at the poker table?
No, they don't have comp drinks at the Hard Rock. They just
weird.
coffee and soft.
Isn't
drinks.
that outrageous?
That's
Also,
so weird for a hardcore casino, like that's a hardcore casino, like that's Vegas.
Woman comes around and says cocktails, and then she hits you up for $20 while you're sitting at a machine. You have to get off your ass.
They give
go to your wallet.
Tournament players no respect. Like if you sit at the cash game and you swipe in with your card, you get a little bit of credits here and there, so it builds up, so you can get a free drink or free meal or something like that. But tournament players, they give nothing. They just.
So what was the story last night? I mean, what kind of Johnny Chan story do you have for us?
No. I mean, it was just a big field of 249. It was a $130 buy-in, and I made it down to the tough part about tournament poker is like you could do 43 things right, but if you make that one mistake, sinks you. And I made the one
bad luck.
play.
I mean, arbitrary bad luck can do it.
So at least I hit the money, and I got paid like $220 off my $130 investment. So I cleared a big $90. Woohoo!
Nothing wrong with
sitting
that.
there for 6 hours. But you know what? It's a fun night.
Did you Valley Park? Because that would have eaten it up right there.
I always walk to the far garage where I get my exercise going back and forth. But
good.
No, you know what I wanted to ask? Oh, well, so going back to the football and the dog games and stuff, but ESPN, what the fuck is wrong with them? Why are they paying Joe Buck and Troy Aikman $170 million if the more entertaining telecast, they're counter-programming? Everybody's watching the Manning brothers now. Like, I watch the Manning brothers because these games are so bad.
They could put any schmucks on that.
The only issue is the Mannings only do 10 games, and I'm sure they really only want to. Remember, this wasn't the Manning's dream to do this, but they were allowed to do literally everything they want and just have a camera on them.
It's kind of like the Adam Sandler show that I went to, where the main act was the most boring, dreadful material of the night.
That says something. And why would ESPN counter program against itself? But I guess I don't understand anything.
To own the
anymore.
universe? I'm not sure. Would you turn off if you were going to turn on the Mannings, though? You wouldn't turn it off to catch Joe Buck and Troy Aikman.
Oh, no.
You would be either engaged with the Mannings or turn off the sound at that point.
What I love is just to watch the enthusiasm of Peyton, because like he sees,
he's
like,
great. Yeah,
you see his reaction, and he knows right away, like 3 seconds before a guy is going to hit somebody for a touchdown, that he sees that play, and then you just by watching his reaction, you know something big is about to happen. So
and Eli is surprisingly and subtly funny.
Yes, they're really good.
As
They're
part
good.
of the broadcast.
It's a good show.
And I like the guests. I like the bizarre array of guests also. I really do.
Yeah, so I give props to them for doing that, even though it makes no sense to go against again, why pay the $170 million if you're going to have your
Wouldn't it be nice if it was us, though, on the lunchbox?
That's
somehow somebody gave us like $180 million to do nothing. I mean, of any significance.
Well, and that brings me to the next announcement. I'm very excited. It's not $180 million, but I'm excited that we're going to be doing Gulfstream Fridays for the lunchbox during the main part of the
move
racing
there,
season.
Mayo. All right, orchestrating that. Dave Joseph involved. I mean, in the decision making.
My old colleague Dave Joseph, who now is in charge of the communications department, and said it would be a good idea if we're going to get out there and we're going to do live lunch boxes every Friday from 12 to 1. That'll be there in the middle of and
it's like a month away.
Early double. Yeah, we're going to start the first. I guess it was December 9th. We're going to have 4 Fridays in
beautiful.
December. We're going to let Lubie take his vacation to Hawaii, so we'll start on December 9th, and then we'll be out there every Friday through the end of the big meet. I guess through Florida Derby weekend.
This is going to awaken you to a new horizon in how great this is, and a great way to make any kind of a dollar, because you're loving it that we go to these places and stuff our faces with tremendous food and get treated like royalty everywhere we go when we have the outside lunchbox shows. There is nothing like finishing the show and already being at a
Yes.
parimutuel facility,
And I hear that
action is on.
the scuttlebutt is that Gulfstream is going to bring back live poker, and they're going to have a poker room again. I hope in
Oh,
time for the
nice.
championship season. So that would be
nice.
even better for me, because then we could just take all our earnings and really just send it all in between the cards and horses. But but you'd be very proud of me because I negotiated in our rider. We each get free daily racing forms too as part of the.
Oh, I was hoping it was a voucher. That would be, and a mystery voucher, which could be like anywhere from 20 to 200. But
so
we always appreciate the generosity of any parimutuel facility that embraces and helps back the efforts that we make here to entertain. By the way, Lubie does have Mark Lawrence's picks, and we'll
go
give those to you.
Go ahead,
before we
Lubie.
make our exit here today. No,
but
it's okay.
I want to tell the audience, not only is it going to be good for us, but everybody's welcome to come out to Gulfstream on those Fridays.
Oh, yeah.
Hang out and watch the races with us after the lunchbox shows, and we're also going to be having a contest component of those editions where basically Defo and we're going to be talking about the upcoming weekend's feature race, usually on Saturday, and we're going to make a handicapping contest of some sort for people that they'll be able to email in their picks, and the winners every week will get, I guess, a free it's like $50 I think
wow.
two $50 brunch passes to 10 Palms on a Sunday at the track.
Oh, that's
so
a great
basically
prize.
that's their all-you-can-eat buffet overlooking the track. So
that's
you get
a nice way to
chance
start.
to win valuable prizes. Thank you to Gulfstream and Dave Joseph. We'll be talking more
Good
about
score
that.
there, Mayo, man. I mean, look, Lubie, we introduced
Always
this guy
be
to the
hustling.
business. He has no idea what we're talking about, right? He's like, well, what? Still advertising? I don't know. And look at these arrangements that he's made. He's brought us back to our most spectacular scenario under the auspices and the high-flying banner of Mike Mayo's Lunchbox, which I think that is brilliant, my friend. All right, do you have any selections for us here for anything coming up over the weekend?
Absolutely none. I am on the shelf with the horses until the Gulfstream.
And you won't be
winter
my
meet
good luck
starts.
charm. I can't rub the hair today.
No,
out there at the
once
track.
the Breeders' Cup is over, I go into my little kind of cocoon period. I take a month off of the horses. I'll be playing some poker and sports. I mean, football. Can anybody figure out this fucking mess?
No.
I mean, like every week, I'm
Bizarre.
staying away from it. No, just be the house. That's my pick for the week. If you
so
have a
much
choice,
easier. So
just
much easier.
find a sucker, find a rube, and
no guessing, no logic, nothing. Yeah. You just have the. I don't know. It's amazing how well it works out. It really is. And the Thursday night games, my buddy is almost. I mean, I should give this out as my lock of the century. I think he has lost every Thursday night game this year so far.
That's something. So has Amazon Prime, because all those games have sucked. So, all right, I'm gonna take a wild guess here and say Mark Lawrence has picked all underdogs. Is that correct?
Yes.
Barking like
There's
he's
a
at the
plus
Kennel Club.
next to every pick of his.
Let's hear him.
You can hear the machine, the rabbit going, and all of a sudden you hear, here comes Rusty, and you can hear the guy saying, "Dogs are in the box." As we have Mark Lawrence is one of my favorite things. Also, any announcer ever utters, "Dogs are in the box." Lubie, what do you have on the Mark Lawrence selections? Can you?
Alrighty, so he gave the nicknames. I don't always know how to describe them the way he does, but in his Texas leaking oil play, because Texas
Exxon Valdez.
I think that's the one where like they won, but they're less on yards and like defensively and offensively. Like they lost in both defense yards given up and yards
out-yarded
on offense, but they won the game. TCU is getting 7 points when the professor was on as well. So like Defo likes to talk about with the Pauly Man's double dot theory, two guys we respect are on this game. TCU getting 7 over Texas and the Texas leaking oil play. The other college football plays, Mississippi State in the Georgia Noose Titans theory. Georgia is number 1 in the country, but they have had their struggles. Mississippi State getting 17 over Georgia. He has that another dog play in the NFL. In the bods, he loves his bods. Better offense, better defense. Cleveland getting 4 over our Miami Dolphins, who have struggled defensively over the last few weeks. So Cleveland Browns and Green Bay
on the road getting 4.
Well, I mean, the Dolphins have struggled defensively. He's not saying the Dolphins are going to lose. Look, the Dolphins last week won by 3. I mean, they could win.
Especially if fucking bonehead McDaniel is going to keep forsaking field
There you
goals.
go.
Never give the points with the Dolphins. Just bet them on the money line.
Doesn't
'cause
that
this guy
help if you're
is
betting and you're
shaving.
trying to cover a spread with the underdog? I mean, where they just
Knowing a guy is always going to
leave
give up
points
easy
up.
field goals.
Yeah.
Yes, that's
How
great.
great is that?
Fucking
I applaud Mike McDaniel for that. I really
Exactly,
do.
because you've had the underdog.
I want to see him go for it on 4th and 24 from his own 2-yard line.
Make a bold statement. That's it.
Yeah, here we go, man. I have nothing but faith in Tyreek Hill and Tua in those spots.
And one that's more quizzical, but I guess again he has his dog theories. Green Bay Packers getting 5, another bod over the Dallas Cowboys. Green Bay Packers.
Wow, he thinks the resurrection of Lazarus there, of
The
Dr.
A-Rod
Timothy Leary.
That was one of the Greeks.
Exactly.
Peyote man, ayahuasca man, tripping man.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, his brain.
You
is
read
fried.
those Carlos Castaneda books, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Isn't that where we got Aaron Rodgers coming from at this point?
At this point, he's
yeah.
And hard to believe that he was in the running to host Jeopardy. I think maybe his life would have been better off at that point.
I tell you what, as much as this Ken Jennings didn't really appeal to me,
No, he's good.
at first. I think he does a good job.
He's
man.
good.
He's
He's
Yeah.
good. Well,
He's
did they
polished it up.
shove Maima Bialik aside because he's good? He's exactly what they need.
I think he's doing weekdays. She might be doing the weekends. But lately, for some reason, I've been catching a little Jeopardy, and it's always
He's
fun to
good.
see how stupid you are.
And again, that's you don't need a star to run that show. The game itself is the star of the show.
Yeah.
So get somebody who's just kind of blends in, and
he's
he's
very
got
efficient.
credibility.
Yeah.
I'm giving him credit. Hey, you know what? I know we're running late, but just one last thing, because now everybody's talking about Tua versus Herbert, and
Herbert's
basically,
been cast aside here so far this year. Tua's very
I
much
mean,
in
it's
the
just
spotlight.
to show you how, first of all, how fickle and how stupid sports fans are, because nobody knows anything. And all I know is this, that even me, I'm going to bash myself because I was saying, why the fuck are the Dolphins keeping Greer if they're getting rid of Flores and they both suck? But Greer pulls the
Parker
trigger.
done a good job.
You know what? I mean, there has never been, aside from the Dolphins, like essentially trading for Don Shula back in '69 when they stole him from the Colts and had to give up draft picks. This is the biggest impact trade in the history of the Dolphins, right? I mean,
maybe
this guy,
among those in South Florida.
Yes.
Yeah.
Tyreek Hill. Well, maybe
Season.
Alonzo Mourning, or was that a free agency?
Well,
No,
for
that was
the
a trade,
Dolphins.
right? Yeah.
That was
But
Mourning
for the
was a trade.
Dolphins.
And the Dolphins. The Dolphins haven't made good trades. They
Okay.
usually fail when it comes to a trade.
No, but the Tyreek Hill thing is just
Stroke
the
of
one
genius.
player has lifted everything around him, because without Tyreek Hill, Tua isn't better than Justin Herbert. Without
Yeah.
Tyreek Hill, Waddle is just a single guy that people can key on. But now it opens up the door to everything, and the guy is just so fucking talented and fast. It's really, and it makes it exciting. People want to go. Again, like I said, a 2 year.
You were actually considering paying for tickets here?
Yeah, I wanted to take my daughter because it's her birthday coming up this week, and she likes going to games. Like a year ago, I was able to get a couple of club seats for us where we was kind of go in there, and it was like I got them the week of the game for like $140 each on club level. This time,
Can't believe
minimum
you were willing to pay.
minimum was
Yeah.
$550 on club level. Like
Yeah.
I'm not
You
I am
wanna
not
see 'em.
spending
That's crazy.
a dime. I mean, yeah,
You
I'm
could
not
go to
spending
that smelly
$1,000.
fish restaurant or whatever that is that
Yeah.
you like. The sexy fish, not the smelly fish.
Carbone. I could go to any of these Miami swanky places. So, all right, we got to get out of here.
All right,
We gotta
sounds
do more
good.
stuff.
So did you buy a pretzel on the way out for 15 at the Hard Rock
No.
last night?
No, I just had a nice old fashioned for 20, and then and made my way home, and I had my leftover spaghetti and meatballs at the midnight.
Okay,
or
okay,
12:30,
very good.
whatever.
Well, I
So
thought you were
that's
going to go Skyline on that after making a
No.
score. All right, Michael, we'll see you at 12 o'clock today with the lunchbox.
12 o'clock sounds good. We're going to talk Publix versus Walmart supermarkets.
Oh, that was a
and,
nice
how
job by
Publix
you.
gouging the eyeballs out of the public. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Clouseau. I mean, you went Clouseau on this thing. Undercover, Mike Mayo.
Yeah, it's all good.
Yeah.
All good.
Were you wearing any kind
$5
of a mask
and
with
25
disguise?
cents for eggs. I mean, that was the breaking point for me. I was
Yeah.
like, why the fuck are eggs so expensive all the time at Publix?
Yeah.
And is it like that everywhere? The answer is no, it's not.
Yeah.
Publix
I mean, they
is-
should have a full-blown casino in there if they're going to gouge you like that. The prices of the
They
food.
sell Powerball.
Play blackjack. One
They sell
deck
Powerballs
blackjack.
at Publix, and you need to hit the Powerball to shop at Publix.
The line's out the door, man. I mean, everybody in their 90s is betting their Social Security check on the Powerball. All right, Michael, we'll see you later on. Thanks so much. The Gambling Gourmet Mike Mayo here on the Degenerate Friday edition of the Defo Show. We'll see you at 12 o'clock later on today. If you want the selections of the great Brandon Lang available for you on the Believe podcast right now. That's BLEAV. I think you'll really enjoy that. And we thank you guys for tuning in. For Mike Lubie Lubitz, I'm Jeff DeForest. Thanks so much, everybody. If you're not going to catch us later on with the Lunchbox, have a great weekend, everybody. We'll see you Monday with another edition, a Peel Yourself Off the Mat Monday edition of the Defo Show. A lot of NFL and college results. Should be a great weekend. Thanks so much. Enjoy, everybody, and we'll see you next time as we leave you now that.
The time.
It's 9:13.
Let's go to eat a damn snack.
Look what they've done to my soul.